Hello everyone and welcome to Twitch Tales episode 57. Dra-gone? Question mark? Where did we leave off in episode 56? Well, I think you all know, in episode 56, Apis took down Luscifrique, the green dragon, hopefully once and for all, but to be decided in this episode. Apis had just flown in on the back of Luscifrique to discover that Mel, Briar, a series of the fighters of Fondurg, and about a dozen very well trained King's Guard called the Royal Cross, had arrived in the Lannis Woods finally to capture and slay many of the dragon creatures, to free the captives of Luscifrique, including yourself. And through a series of very lucky rolls and well-placed arrows and good decisions, well-used spell slots, Luscifrique lost the fight. And as he was losing the fight, he decided to retreat and live to fight another day, to get out of the Lannis Woods and fly off to another home somewhere else, establish that, spend years growing, and then come for Apis again in a later time. He decided all this in the moment and took off out of there, above the canopy, and started to fly away. Apis had other plans, not wanting Luscifrique to get away that easily. They used their last level 2 slot to Misty Step up the tree, use their movement to climb the rest of the way, poke your head out of the canopy, at which point you saw him in the far distance flying away. You used your longbow and your archery feat to fire off 2 arrows, and as both flew, one of them missed, the other one was curved into hitting through your inspiration, your reroll. It hit true, you rolled damage and got a couple of hit points more than Luscifrique had left, just enough to fell him. And as he fell crashing down through the trees, the canopies, and hitting the ground with a large, heavy thud, you clambered back down the tree with great aplomb, and upon reaching the ground you found that the vegetative wall that he had put up, the thorny wall separating your side of the battle from the mooks and minions side of the battle, that had fallen, that had come down. Coda was being healed by Briar, and as she healed him, he disapparated back into his realm, his universe from whence he came, and the remnants of the battle rage around you. You've seen the falling of several of your allies from Fondurg. Mark, who is a gnomon, a half human, half gnome druid from the PEA guild. You've seen the falling of Rebecca, one of the illusion wizards from the Arcanists Entente of Fondurg, and you've seen the falling of Vala. Vala being the sort of blood magic wizard in charge of the Arcanists Entente of Fondurg. You also see, not that you knew them, but you also see several of the Royal Cross that were sent to slay the dragon have fallen in the battle as well. For every person, every humanoid that has fallen, there are half a dozen slain half-dragon beasts littering the forest floor. You can see half-dragon rats, squirrels, rabbits. You can see a half-dragon toad with its gulasackle exploded, lying to the ground near Vala's body. You can see under... the dome is no longer there, but underneath where there was a dome, where Polython was holding on to that earthbind, you can see the dead body of both Mark and the giant dragon badger. You cannot see the green dragon hedgehog, you cannot see the fox, you cannot see the mole, and you cannot see the deer. From memory, I believe those are the only ones that are left alive somewhere in the forest. So the question goes to you, Apis. What do you want to do in this moment? The options, as I see it, are thus. You can ignore the remnants of the battle as they are raging now, head straight for where the dragon had fallen. You can the allies of Fondurg and the Royal Cross, the remnants of who remain, to defeat the other side of this battle. With your help, I'm sure it will go your way a lot quicker. You can run over to the Fallen and help and see if they're alive. See if you can help them. You have 2 spell slots left, so you could try Cure Wounds if they are living. You can ignore this situation entirely and head straight back to the dome to see if the people there are safe and well. The vegetative wall may have come down around the dome, and so the people of that village might be free to help out now. People like Nim, who is an artificer in his own right, Cassandra, Logan, the people, the elves of that village. There's lots of options for you, but what is it that Apis wants to do? We've got a few people saying try and save Vala. Try and save Vala. We can run over to her, try and save Vala. I'd like to confirm the dragon kill. Can't afford him to come back. First try Cure Wounds and then go for the dragon. Deal with the dragon for the greater good. He's not handled. The battle will be for nothing. I want to heal Vala. Alright, most people in the chat saying Vala. It is pretty clear that is the majority there, so no poll needed. Apis immediately will run over the battlefield, dodging out of the way of a couple of relatively weak poison breath attacks now from dying animals, wounded and dying animals that are on their last breath, trying their best to save their own skins. Apis jumps over them, dodges and weaves between raising swords and shields and jumping wolves. As the camera follows you through all of this hectic interactions on the battlefield, you reach the side of Vala, and you can see that she has significant wounds, and she is lying unmoving on the ground. Would you like to use one of your spell slots to cast Cure Wounds, knowing that if she is already dead, it will waste the slot and not do anything? Or do you want to first make a medicine check to see if she is still breathing, in which case Cure Wounds will help? The medicine check will obviously take a little time, but it will guarantee that you won't waste a spell slot. There is harm in doing a medicine check first, Locke, and the payoff is that if she is dying and making death saves, and you use your action to make a medicine check, then she has to make another saving throw, essentially. So, are you checking to see if she's alive and then doing it, or are you trying, are you going to spend the spell slot so that she doesn't have to waste a turn making another death saving throw? All right, looks like we are going to need a poll on this. So to be clear on your options, I'm saying with a situation like this, time is of the essence. She might be on her last legs, she might be about to take her last breath, or she might already be dead. If she is already dead, then Cure Wounds will be wasted, and you'll have wasted a spell slot. A medicine check will not waste anything for you, because it will tell you she's already dead. If, on the other side of things, she is alive but dying, Cure Wounds will keep her alive and heal her, but a medicine check might be might take up the time needed for her to be healed, and she might be about to make her last breath. In game mechanics terms, she might be making death saving throws, and your medicine check is just to see if she's alive. It's not to actually heal. It's not to stabilize her, because I don't tend to rule medicine checks in that sort of rules as written way. You're not making a stabilized check on a dead body. You first need to know whether the person is actually even still alive. You've got 2 spell slots left of the day. You don't get them back on a short rest. It is still early morning, and there's a lot of adventuring to do today, because even if you do check the dragon and he is dead, and you do win this particular fight, you've still got other creatures still alive. You've still got the rest of the forest. You've still got captives and stuff, so you might need your spell slots, so it's up to you. You can use a healing potion, yes. Alright, 92% of Apis knows that's exactly what they're going to do. So as you are rushing to Vala's body, You pull out the healing potion. You pop the top off of it, and you hope in that moment that Toria has done a good enough job of creating this that it, at the very least, keeps her alive. You turn her over onto her back, and her head lolls with uncomfortable implications. And as you pour the healing potion into her mouth, there's no response from her. She's not showing any signs of being conscious. The magic of the healing potion is such that an unconscious person can still gain the benefits of it, though, as soon as it hits the tongue. However, you see no response. As you've poured the healing potion into her mouth, you know you hit the right spaces. The potion, if she was still alive, should be working, but it has not. What now? Pray to Flonenshale. You sort of close your eyes, fearing the implications of the healing potion not working. You sort of place your hand on her hair and kind of smooth down some of the blood and frog guts that covers her. Wipe it from her forehead and close your eyes and say a little just thoughts and emotions rather than actual sentences. Just thinking to Flonenshale, the goddess of healing, the one that gives you the cure wounds. You just hope that she can find some sort of rest. I hope that if there is anything that can be done to bring her back or to strengthen this potion, you're a jumble of thoughts in the moment. What's the course of action now? Tree of Dave says we need to move on to get to the dragon. But before we do, we need to make sure that this battle is won. So we can use the sort of intimidation of the loss of their leader to ensure that the half-dragons no longer fight. Shout in Draconic to the half-dragons that their father's dead, the battle is over, they've lost, stand down. That could work, yes. We do speak Draconic, so that could work. Is anyone else down and maybe savable? Rebecca is down. You've seen Rebecca and Mark go down. You've also seen some people that you don't know. Some people that you've probably seen around Fonderg have gone down, but nobody that you know by name. The only people you know by name are Rebecca, Mark, and Vala. End the battle, check the wounded, shout in Draconic. All right, a lot of people saying that we should go to Luscifrique, but first just shout something. Shout something in Draconic to the half dragons. Let's put this to a poll though, because there is some parts of Apis that want to try and save Rebecca or Mark. What to do? Try save the fallen. Try intimidate the half dragons. I can't think of any other options, so I think that's the only one that is the decision to make. You can obviously shout things as you are trying to save the fallen, but if you want to fully focus on trying to intimidate things, that's the focus of your action, which means that you can't do both. Can we see the leader of the allied forces? Give them our map. If you want to try and find where you don't know exactly what the authority of the Royal Cross guards are, but they're all dressed in plate mail with shields and things, so they're all equally authoritative, it seems. There is probably going to be someone who is in charge, but you don't have any sort of history with soldiers and military, so you don't know how to read the insignia on their uniforms and things to see who is in charge. And besides which, they're all in furious battle, fighting for their lives, trying to take out the remainder of the animals present. All right, with 81% of the vote, Apis is going to try and intimidate the half-dragons. You stand up and look around very briefly and see that there are fallen people around you. Apis is perhaps overwhelmed a little in that moment about the options for who to try and recover, who has fallen that may still be on death saves, as it were, may still be worth saving, but the options are almost overwhelming, and in that moment you think there's very little point trying to save a person's life who is down if the threat to them is still present. In a very first aid kind of way, the first thing you have to do is remove the threat of further injury, and the threat of further injury definitely comes from the fact that there are a lot of half-dragons around. So the first thoughts that go through your mind are that these half-dragons may not know that Luscifrique is dead. So you first just bellow at the top of your lungs in Draconic, "Your father is dead! Stand down or you will die too!" I'm going to roll you an intimidation check. I'm going to roll you with advantage because you are using Draconic and because you are very well, you're telling the truth, and some of them may have actually seen the situation. So I'm going to roll you with advantage an intimidation check, and that is an 11 or a nat 20 on the gem dice. Nice. 11 plus your intimidation would have been a 12, so that was already pretty good, and then a nat 20 plus 1 for intimidation is a 21 total. With a 21, it is fair to say that a lot of the morale of this dragon army was already in shambles, given that the outright slaughter of many of their kind. As soon as the dragon fell, the connection to the birds and critters that were not half dragons, the ones that were being mind controlled, the ones that were being used as eyes and ears and spies the whole time, that he had manipulated to attack, that connection was lost, and so all of the non-dragon critters were already retreating from the fight anyway. So all that was remaining were the dragon critters, and not the large ones at that. Only foxes, foxes, wolves, rabbits, those sorts of woodland creatures. So as you bellow that their father has fallen and to give up now, their need to keep fighting seems to be wavered. They see a few of them start to retreat, and it only takes a single crack in the dam before suddenly the pressure builds behind and it explodes. And that crack in the dam comes from the first couple of wolves hesitating when they go to attack, and that hesitation gets seen by the other wolves. The wolves towards the sides start to turn and retreat. That retreating gets seen by the other foxes and the rabbits and the other creatures that are attacking. It seems that very quickly they start to turn and disperse into the woods. As they turn, a lot of the royal guards are finishing several of them off, but there are still a great number of Luscifrique's half-dragon children around. You are reminded once again of how he has spent literally years. Every waking moment of Luscifrique's day has been tracking down and impregnating several forest animals in order to grow his army as sizable as he can in the several years that he's been around. So there are lots of creatures that are used to having litters that have grown a great number of very great number of his half dragon offspring. Unfortunately for him, it was not enough. So as the fight disperses, you are left to your own devices. The men and women of Fondurg and the Royal Cross start to use this moment to recuperate themselves, to head to one another and to get them back on their feet. What is Apis doing in this moment? You shout it in common as well, yes. You repeat yourself in common. Luscifrique is dead! Back off now, or you will die too! So, what are you doing now? Go to Luscifrique now? Go to Luscifrique? Alright. So you set off running through the forest in the direction that Luscifrique fell, and you hear behind you the clanking of armor. That it signifies that a lot of the Royal Guard are also keeping up with you, also heading in your direction. You hear some of them shouting towards you. Where did he fall? And you're shouting, this way, this way. Charlie and Briar, yeah, they're going to start coming with you as well. Charlie and Briar have actually headed over to Mark first, and they've tried raising him. Whether or not he was able to be raised is not something that you've stuck around to find out. Mel is also buzzing in your direction as well. Mel was heading on after Luscifrique in the first place, so she's heading in his direction anyway. All right. After a few moments. He only fell a couple 100 feet away, so with a dash you can get there in several rounds. Mel can get there faster because she is a lot faster. And as you're arriving, there is this quake in the ground. There is this. In fact, I'm going to make you see if you can stay on your feet. It's strong enough to warrant you for... Yeah, 13 plus your strength save. You are just about staying on your feet. As you are arriving at the clearing where he... Well, it wasn't really a clearing when he fell into it, but with his force smashing into various saplings and smaller trees, he has hit the ground with great force. And as you arrive to where the beginnings of this brush has been smashed aside, you feel this quake. It throws you into a nearby tree, and you manage to catch your balance. You hear the clanging of armor as a couple of the Royal Guard were not quite so lucky on their feet. And then you hear a buzzing of a bee who comes flying over your direction and says, "There is green poison around him. I cannot get close enough to stab without risking myself." And you crest over the sort of mossy hill in front of you and see that, sure enough, Luscifrique is lying at an uncomfortable angle with his head kind of twisted round almost 180 degrees, with his long serpentine neck kind of at an awkward angle, his wings held over him in sort of a crumpled fashion. His legs are tucked beneath, sort of outstretched behind him, tucked beneath his tail. And he looks in a very bad way. If he is alive, he is probably got some kind of a broken neck. It is much more likely that he is no longer alive. You can also see that from his body, there is this sort of larger kind of cracks in the stone and the thin soil that is of the forest floor has given way to this kind of fissure that's broken up beneath his body. It seems that the quake has originated from his body, and out from his body is also originating this smoke, not from his mouth, but just from his scales. This green poisonous gas is kind of just exuding outwards from him. Everything that you're seeing is telling you that he is dead, but to be sure, you could just shoot him. Yes, Burris says, just as soon as you get sight, pull another arrow, shoot him again. You get an arrow out, and to be safe, you fire it off. It strikes into his scales. I'll roll damage to see if you actually hit him. You've definitely got advantage on this. I didn't turn the camera on, but that was a 15. 15 plus 8, 23 to hits, and it sticks into him. There is no response from him. There is not even like a twitch of the muscle or anything. It seems Luscifrique is dead. So, what to do now? Burn it with fire. We don't have fire. I suppose we could light a torch and try and burn him. Get some dragon blood. Be aware that there is poisonous gas around his body, so approaching his body could be dangerous. We know dragons. Would we know any particular reason for this phenomenon? Good question, Sparrow. Let's find out. We do know dragons. We have our favourite enemy is dragons. I believe from memory that just gives you advantage on checks made about him. So I will make this an Arcana check, in which you are not proficient. So it'll just be a +3. but with advantage. That's a 2 or a 14 on the sparkly green one. So 14 plus 3, 17. With a 17, how much would you know about this? You would know that dragons have serious magic within them that is not in the same vein as the magic of spells. You'd know that while humans and humanoids tend to be able to harness magic, they're not inherently magical usually. Dragons are inherently magical. They are much older than humanoid races, and they have a much more elemental, much more fundamental kind of magic within themselves, and that great events such as their death can trigger certain releasing of that magic. And so it's quite possibly that it's just a death throw of the dragon. And just to let you peek behind the curtain, the thing that I was rolling off screen was his death saving throws, and he succeeded 2 and failed 2, and then just as you were arriving, he failed his 3rd. And so he failed his 3 death saves just as you were arriving, and he didn't make it. So yeah, he died just as you were arriving, which was the reason why it suddenly triggered the quake and the poison breath. So what's the plan, everybody? You can help the remaining survivors and come back later. So here's your options as I see them. You can add more as well. You can leave now. He's dead. You can just leave him, go and deal with other things, and come back once this poison has dissipated. You can go and fetch one of the druids to come and use some wind magic if they've still got any spell slots left to try and blow the stuff away to get to him now. You can just straight up tank it because you're a dwarf and have resistance to poison anyway, so you can just walk into the poison and hope for the best. You can ask one of the dwarves of the Royal Guard, who also has poison resistance potions and things. You can, I don't know, what do you want to do? The King's Men are just about catching up because, as I say, a few of them fell over in the quake and things, and a few of the others have stopped to help them to their feet. So you were the first on the scene. So you've seen this, you've drawn an arrow, you've shot, and in this moment, you've only been standing here for like a couple of seconds, so the King's Men haven't like fully caught up to you yet. So it's up to you to do what you're going to do first, and then they'll act reactively to you. Tell the soldiers to stay watch the body. Once the poison clears, chop his head off. You don't know how long the poison is going to take to clear, though. Can we take Charlie and Briar to go check on the elf village? You can. You could do that. Is that a thing you're going to do right now? Is that the most important thing? Order a guard to go get the druid for us. King's Men are probably in charge here. True. All right. So are we waiting for the King's Guard to see what they do first? So many options. So much dissent about what to do. So Apis in the moment is feeling all of this, like, what do I do? What to do first? A few people want to ask something of the guards at the very least. So you wait for the guards to catch up. The guards, once they see the body with weapons drawn, and they're not taking any chances, they see the body with weapons drawn, they start to approach. One of them calls back to one of the others, we should wait for the resilience division. And this is the first you've heard of this this name. But you did recognize during the fight that there were half a dozen dwarves and half a dozen humans that were brought from the King's Men, and you know, being a dwarf, that you have a natural resistance to poison in your blood, and so you think that the Resilience Division is quite possibly the name for the dwarven complement. And a few moments later, with slightly stubbier legs, in comes clanking one of the dwarves dressed in their full plate. Thanking Altamez is a sure thing? Absolutely, yeah. So while you're waiting for the dwarf resilience division to arrive, you drop to your knee and take out 2 of your arrows, cross them on the ground in front of you as the symbol of Altamez, the god of the hunt, and you give thanks. You give prayer to Altamez. I will have you roll a religion check just to see how well you remember the prayers and whatnot in this moment. That's cocked. Nat 1. No, not great on this one right now. In the moment, there's just too much going on for you. There's adrenaline happen, and then there's lots of distractions. You're trying to remember your prayers to Altamez. You're giving him thanks, even with a nat 1. You're still like good enough that you're giving him thanks, but it's just you're not really, your heart and mind and soul are not sort of all in alignment in this prayer. You're kind of going through the motions a little bit. However, at the moment you're done with that, the dwarf has arrived and has started to approach the body. He says to the others in common, "This is just the death throw's poison. He's definitely dead. You can tell from the angle of the head. The green dragon wouldn't have the capacity to turn his head in such a fashion." He steps right up and he gets to the tip of his wing and just stabs his sword down into it, and there's no resistance from Luscifrique. There's no twitch. You can see that there's lack of twitch muscles. Excuse me, sorry. It's still quite potent, like his breath weapon. We're probably best, and he steps out of the green smog, which you notice has not like spread outwards in a natural fashion. It's just sort of hung around the body. It's definitely worth dispersing this before we can get closer to him. He approaches you, and you say, "Do you have any spare poison resistance potions?" He says, "We don't have spares. There were enough of us fighting that we didn't have enough to go around everyone. Many of the people of Fonder already got them. I didn't see you in the lineup. What's your name?" You tell this guy your name. You ask him. You say, "My name's Apis. I was a captive of the dragon. I'm an archer, a bit of a wanderer. I was in Fonder when he attacked." He says, "Well, it's great to see that you're still alive." You say, "Have you got any idea how long it'll take for this to dissipate?" And he says, "In fact, how much does this guy know?" Not the greatest. He says, "The accounts all vary as to how long it takes after the fact. It could be a day, could be an hour. It depends on the strength of the dragon usually." So what now? What's your intention? You've heard that this death throes of this green dragon's poison could be around for as much as a day if he's strong enough. Warn him about the necromancer. We don't want an undead dragon. How far-reaching was that quake? A few hundred feet. It wasn't like a huge magnitude thing. It's just that you happened to be near the epicenter of it, but it was only a few hundred feet. All right. So you say, "Listen, you should be aware that there's a necromancer in the forest nearby." You hear the clanging of metal immediately as lots of helmeted heads turn towards you as you say this. "There's a necromancer in the forests to the west of here. We don't want this dragon coming back to life. We need to do something with his body as soon as possible." You see one of the humans turns to one of the dwarves and says, "Gren, I think we better press on. Are you able to get this around him?" And he brings out of his belongings a small roll of bandage. Essentially, it looks like a roll of gauze bandage, and he hands it over to Gren, who says, "I'm not sure if I can get something this size. It might take me a few minutes. I'm not sure I can survive in that fog for that long." He says, "Well, make a start. We can tap in and out." And Gren takes this bandage and walks up to the body. You've not seen this bandage before. Actually, there is a small chance that you might have, being a hunter. I'm gonna roll an Arcana check for you. This is not a... No, you don't have advantage on this. Look at that, nat 20. This gem dice wants to work for us today. A nat 20. Alright, so you have seen these things before. This is known as Binding of the Hunter. You've seen it in a hunting shop a few years ago, maybe when you were in your 40s or so. It is a a magic item, relatively uncommon, that when applied to a corpse, usually hunters use them to more easily transport things that they've slain. When applied to a corpse, sort of wrapped around it, it will cast the reduce spell on that corpse, and it will reduce it by 2 size categories. So a large creature will be reduced to a small creature, a huge creature will be reduced to a medium creature, and so on. So this Luscifrique was size category large, so he will be, once they have finished applying this gauze to him, he will be reduced to a size category small, and then they can do whatever they need to with him. A size category small, for reference, is something around the size of like a medium dog or so. So you see him walking forwards with one of these bindings of the hunter, and he walks into the fog. I'm going to roll a Constitution saving throw for him. He makes it, so he's going to take quarter damage because he's got He's taking half the damage from that. No, he's going to take an 8th damage because he's half the damage from that, half the damage from being a dwarf, and he's also got poison resistance potion on top of that, which I know technically doesn't stack with his dwarven resistance, but they come from different sources, so poison resistance and dwarven resistance, I allow them to stack. So he is taking an 8th damage of the poison, which means that he'll be able to work for a little while into this. He won't get all the way into the 5 minutes because he doesn't have that many hit points left, but he starts to wrap it around, and it's going to take him a few minutes. What are you doing in that time? Retrieve the arrows. You can get up close to him and try and get your arrows back from Luscifrique's body if you want. Tell them. Also, there's still a half-dragon mole, a half-dragon fox, a deer, and a hedgehog probably still alive somewhere. And the guys say, "Well, thank you for telling us. Apis, was it? These things. What sort of sizes are we talking here?" And you run them through. It takes a minute or so for you to sort of explain, like, this size, big ones, small ones, smart, stupid, what they were last seen doing, whereabouts they were. You tell them the fox was running sort of the secondary location for Luscifrique. He kept his treasure in a dome near here. The captives were kept in a dome up here, and then about a few miles to the north of that. Yada yada yada. You're trying to exposition dump on this guy while this other one is wrapping up the corpse. Can we see if you turn to you ask one of them. You say, could one of you grab one of the druids that were fighting alongside you? They might be able to shift this with wind. And does this require? No, this is a pretty smart decision. No persuasion check needed there. One of them says, yes, great idea, and he turns and leaves. Let's say, who's that one? She. Let's say it's Esme. Esme leaves to go and grab one of the druids. What about the kobolds? You say, what happened to the kobolds of Fonderg? And the human that you're talking to says, he takes off his helmet, and you see that he's an attractive guy. He's relatively tall. He's just over 6 foot, which is quite tall for a human. Relatively attractive guy with sort of short-ish hair down to sort of like just the back of his neck, and he says, the kobolds were dealt with before we set off. We got word that they were attacking from the well, and so a contingency was sent down and found the kobolds' tunnels. They shouldn't be a problem. What's Charlie doing? Charlie went towards Mark's body when you last saw him. Charlie and Briar went towards Mark's body, so he didn't come with you. But one of these guys has just gone to go get him. Alright. A lot of people saying that they want some of Luscifrique's body. So you can say, you say to the guy you're talking to, could I helped to take down Luscifrique in a big way. Could I take some of that? And he says, I'm sorry, but the body belongs to the king now. It seems that you're going to have to persuade this guy to let you have any of Luscifrique. So if you want any of him, if you want blood, scales, bones, teeth, claws, anything like that, you're going to have to persuade them because the Royal Guard are claiming it for the king. Can we at least get arrows back then? And he says, of course, yes, you can claim your arrows, but you may want to wait until the smog has cleared, or at the very least we've moved the dragon out of range of it. Tell him you made the final shot. We made the final shot, and he says, I understand, and you were integral to the fight, I'm sure. Because the Royal Cross was officially engaged in the slaying of this dragon, the quarry belongs to the king. I'd rather not piss off the ruler of the country. It's annoying, but we can deal with it. Surely there'll be a souvenir in the treasure or something. There is he is severely wounded from all of the damage that he took during the fight, so you could like claim some blood perhaps. What hit did the Royal Cross make on this dragon? I think one of them hit it with a ballista bolt, but they were engaged in the battle. You can bribe him, you can persuade him. It's up to you guys. What do you want to do? You can leave it, you can push it and try and make a persuasion check. You can try and threaten this guy and make an intimidation check. You can try and bribe the guy. What do you want to do? We've got some kill the king, usurp the throne. I think that's a long-term plan. Remove our arrows, get some blood from the arrow holes. We can try that, yeah. Sneak some parts while we gather arrows. Okay, we've got a few options here, so I'm going to put it to a poll. What to do about collecting dragon parts if you want them? Leave it, as in like we don't care about dragon parts. Just walk away and deal with other things. Persuade the guy to give you some. Say, hey man, I really I'm a hunter, I'm a traveler. The way I make my living is by hunting rare things. I really need this. Can you just give me some blood or a single tooth or something that I can sell? Blah blah blah. Use your persuasion. Sneak some. So like go up to the body, get your arrows back, and while you're there, just collect some of the loose scales and blood. Bribe the guy or buy some from him and say, hey, I've got some money, I've got some items, I'll give you this if you give me some dragon. Or pick up the pieces. There is blood left around the forest from the dragon that you may be able to scrape off of leaves and things. There are a couple of scales that would have been torn off from Coda's scratching and clawing attacks, so you might be able to pick up a couple of scales and blood and stuff. Just be aware that obviously that will be lower quality stuff because you'll be potentially contaminating it by picking up dirt and soil and things with it. And the scales that were turned off might be broken and not worth stuff. It seems that as far as like organs and flesh and huge amounts of hide go, you're not going to be able to get that. Not without going to the king and arguing your case there. All right. Ooh, 39% of the vote want to pick up the pieces. 37% want to persuade him to give you some. If I was to, yeah. So bribe, sneak some, and leave it are no longer options. I'm going to do preferential voting. So pick up the pieces or persuasion are the only options left. Ooh, 51% of the vote. Apis is right down the middle, torn. Apis, kind of as an introvert, is perhaps having a hard time talking back to authority in this way and sticking their ground, but just eking out ahead of the other one. Apis kind of feels their mouth opening before they know better, and say, as best as you can, you persuade this guy to let you have some of it. I will roll. There's no reason you would have advantage on this. No. So just a straight persuasion check. It's this plus 1. What's that, an 18? 18 plus 1. There you go, 19 persuasion. With a 19 persuasion check, the guy says, okay, yes, I'm a reasonable guy. I understand what you're asking for. I'm happy to let you have something, but we can't let you have anything that would further destroy the appearance of this dragon. Quite often the thing that sells the best or makes for the most interesting decorative design perhaps is an intact dragon's skull. So what exactly is it that you're wanting? If it's blood, if it's scales, we can probably do that. If it's a couple of the back claws, perhaps I might be able to make that work. How much do you want, and what are you after? So you want some dragon blood. What have you got? You've got the empty vial from the healing potion before. You do know from experience, talking to an alchemist earlier on in this campaign, that if you put magical essence like dragon blood and things into a vial that already has had magical stuff inside it, like potions, there is potential for contamination. Blood, scales, and claws. Back tooth. All of those were scale. Just one trophy. Claws, blood. All right, so everybody wants blood. We're getting some blood for sure. How many empty vials do we have? Wash out the water from the water skin. There we go then. Yeah. So we say that'd be great. Thank you. Are you going to just head over to the dragon now and like tank some of this poison damage? With the 19, you haven't got like free reign of this guy. You can't take whatever you want, but he will let you have a little more than you would have if you'd have gotten less than a 19. Ask for one of the molars. Yeah, you could ask for one of the back teeth. Something that's not gonna tank it. Better less witnesses. All right, so we will. I think fresh people. Yeah, fresh people. Tank it. Fresh. Yeah. Okay. So we want it fresh, and we want it. We want fewer people around to witness us doing this if it's meant to belong to the king. So we walk through into the poison. You guys have to make a poison saving throw. It is Constitution. And because it is poison related and you are a dwarf, you have advantage on it. You have a +2 to Constitution saving throws. So nice. The green sparkly one it's its turn for an 18 there. I like that these dice kind of waver between one of them rolling well and the other one rolling well. They work together in tandem very well. So that is a dirty 20. 20 is enough to half the damage incoming to you, and then because you have poison resistance as a dwarf, you're going to half the damage again. Which is lucky, because this is pretty strong poison. What health was Apis on at the end of that last fight? I can't remember. Somebody in the chat will remember. We'd taken 17 damage. Alright, so our maximum is 56. 56 minus 17 is 39. We have just taken... So that's 20... That's 30 exactly. 30 quartered is 8. So 8 hit points of poison damage from walking into this poison cloud. And you're going to take... that again every 6 seconds essentially, so you can't exactly spend a lot of time in here, but you've got like 20 seconds to get what you need and get out. So you make sure you've got ready before you walk into the cloud. You get your water out and you clean out the vials. I can't remember how many glass vials you got, but I remember you bought some specifically, like in the inventory here you've got empty vials. I can't remember exactly how many, but I'll say that you fill them all up with blood. There's enough wounds and holes on his body that you can just like chuck a vial in there and the blood will fill it up almost immediately. So it doesn't take a long time to fill up vials with blood. You got 3 of them? Yeah, I thought I had 3 in mind as well. So you want to fill 3 empty vials. You've got those in hand as you're approaching the poison. You want to grab a claw, a tooth, a scale. What's the next most important thing for you? We've got blood covered. What's the next most important thing that you want to grab? Because you might only be able to grab one of them before you kind of pass out from the poison. Claw, scales, tooth, claw, tooth, scales. Scales for armor. It seems like you're all in disagreement about this. So, what is the most important to grab? A claw, a tooth, some scales. I would normally, so another option for dragon stuff is a fang, which is different to a tooth because you've got your canine fangs and then you get your regular teeth like your carnassials. A tooth is one of those carnassials or the front teeth or whatever. A fang is one of these ones. He would not with a 19. He will not allow you to take a fang or any of the front teeth. He doesn't want to ruin that. He might, with a 19, allow you to take one of the back teeth. So claw, tooth, scales. What else is there? Normally there would also be like organs, like the eyes, the actual like breath, the poison organ from the dragon, the heart of the dragon. With a 19, 100% not going to get any of those things. So I think with a 19, the only things he will let you get is a single claw, one of the back teeth, or like a handful of scales. So that's your options. Which ones are most important to you to grab? You are not going to get enough scales to make full scale mail, not by a long shot. This guy was only a large dragon, not like a huge or gargantuan, so he doesn't have that many scales. And taking off enough to make a dwarven suit of armor from it, dwarven suit of plate mail, scale mail rather, it would leave like a huge skinned patch of the dragon, which is going to be unsightly. And the whole point of the king claiming this dragon is that it's good for like. Look what my men have slain on my behalf. Scales to make braces. You could probably get braces made, yeah. And with them being dragon scales, you could get them enchanted to be braces of defense. Ooh, okay. So your most important things in order of importance to you, to Apis, is scales, claws, then teeth. For this one, obviously, because I was asking for an order of importance, I don't need to go preferential voting with it. Scales, claws, tooth. So Apis gets this in mind. You get out your hunting knife, your kitchen knife that you had stolen away from the hut recently. You grab your 3 empty vials in hand. You take a deep breath and you walk into the poison cloud, and even with your holding your breath, you can feel it. It is almost magically forcing its way up into your sinuses and instantly turning to like a pepper spray in your eyes as it's hitting you. It's almost this chlorine gas, or chlorine-like gas, I should say, so that you don't start getting on me about the properties of chlorine. It is not technically chlorine; it's like magic chlorine. I don't know. It gets into your eyes and your skin and hurts you a little. Thankfully, you're dwarvish, so you tank it a little bit. But you walk over, you find a piece of the chest that is largely slashed open from one of Coda's claws, perhaps. I know that Coda did a lot of damage to the neck, so you head over to one of those wounds and you chuck in some of the vials, all 3 at once, and the seeping blood that is still kind of pouring out because it's still relatively fresh from the kill. You fill it with a dark reddish. I want to say like reddish green, but those are kind of opposites on the color wheel. So how would you get a reddish green? It's red, but it has swirls. You know, like you can get like edible glitter that you can put into cocktails and stuff. It's kind of like got swirls of green flecks in it, but otherwise it's a very dark, almost burgundy red. You take those, you quickly stopper them up. You're going to take another 8 points of damage because that's one action essentially. The next action is to try and get some of these scales off. Some of the ones around the neck are also already loose because of Coda's scratching and biting and stuff. So around those same wounds, you just tear off some of the scales. The dwarf that's with you has been focused on wrapping up the gauze. He sort of tucks back under the head at this point and wraps around and he goes, "Hey! What are you doing? You're not meant to." And you say, he said I could. I took down the. And he's like, "All right, just a few, not too many." You get off a section of scales that you think, "I'm not sure what I can do with that," and then in the moment you realise, "Oh, I could probably wrap it around my arm." So you quickly, use Planar Warrior to make it easier. Yeah, you summon your Planar Warrior into the hunting knife, cut through, slice through the scales with renewed vigor, and before long you've got a small patch of scales, 2 small patches of scales, enough to make 2 braces that will potentially add to your armor class, and then also if you get them enchanted properly, they may also be able to make braces of defense or some other magical braces. With a 19 and you taking another 8 points of damage now, you are down to 24 from 39, makes 15. You're down to 15 health left, and you know that you can't stay in this cloud for very much longer. You could try and push your luck and get something more if you want to, but you're like 2 rounds away from being unconscious because of the poison, and you're already starting to push to your limits of what you can take from this thing, it seems. It's up to you though. You can choose to push one thing more, and you are pretty close to the head. You could try and reach in and grab one of the broken teeth. The claws would take decent amount of time. There was no reason that the claws would be loose. Nobody was specifically targeting the feet during the fight, so there's no reason that the claws would be loose. He didn't damage his claws during the fight from memory, so it would take like digging and cutting out his fingers to get the claws. Time to go, don't push it, not worth it. Drink a potion as a bonus action, get more health, stay for longer and do that. Alright, the poll is, should I stay or should I go? And your options are go for a tooth, go for a claw, or leave. You can grab your arrows back as well before you leave. You'll have enough time to grab a couple of the arrows back. Alright, with 60% of the vote, we decide to leave. We're not going to push our luck with trying to grab for more than we've asked for. We've already had the dwarf that's wrapping him up say like, hey, you're not meant to be doing this kind of thing, and he's kind of giving us disapproving looks. When we take that final piece for our braces, he says, that's enough. And you think about taking the tooth or whatnot, but you decide better of it. So you go, I'll just grab my arrows back then, and you head round to his head. Are you going to take the ones that are in his head, the crossed ones that were sort of in Altamez style, or are you going to take some of the ones that you shot elsewhere into his body and leave the ones in his head? Taxidermist would replace the eyes anyway, should have taken one. Yeah, but it's not only taxidermy that the king wants this for. Dragon parts all have magical properties, so the dragon eyes would also be property of the king. You can use them in certain potions and things. Leave the ones in the head for the show of skill. Leave the Ultimate's arrows, leave the crossed head arrows. Yeah, everybody's saying leave those in the head because it's cool. Shows how he was killed, shows that we were involved, shows that Ultimate was involved. So we go to elsewhere on the body and try and recover. I'm just going to do a simple check of sorts. What would it be? Strength-based sleight of hand I'm going to make it, because it's about the strength of being able to pull the arrow back out, but it's sleight of hand in order to like wiggle it and manipulate it in such a way that you don't break the arrow as you pull it. So strength-based sleight of hand check. You are not proficient in sleight of hand, so it's just going to be straight strength +1. 5 +1. Sorry, let me turn my dice cam on so you can see I wasn't lying. 5 +1 is a 6 total on the dice to wiggle. You are getting to the point of the point where the poison is the poison is getting a little too much for you. You manage to get back one of your arrows before you have to get out of that cloud of nastiness. If you can inquire with them later, they'll potentially give you your arrows back. But you leave the fog, and a few moments after you've left, like a minute or so after you've left the fog, you're kind of recovering off to the side. When the gorse is wrapped up, well, probably takes a couple of revolutions of the dwarves, because Gren gets too sick to carry on now, so he leaves the fog as well. Another one of the dwarves steps up to carry on. The gorse is finished wrapping, and as it does so, you see that the gorse, the weave of threads in the material starts to glow and grow larger, encompassing the whole body in this sort of web of blue mesh. These spidering wires of blue magic spread out from the gorse around the throat to encompass the entire body, and then the body just starts to shrink before your eyes, including the arrows that are in it. Everything that is included, worn or carried by this corpse shrinks down to about the size of a dog or so. The dwarf that is the last person there by the body, as it happens, then lugs this green dragon corpse up over his shoulder, leaves the fog, slumps him down on the ground, and then is he going to leave the arrows in there? I think he doesn't want to risk damaging the eyes as they get taken out. So yeah, he's going to leave the arrows in the face, because the taxidermist doesn't want to work with extra damage. So he pulls out, I'm going to say, in fact, no, for the same reason, he's going to leave all the arrows in there. So unless you argue otherwise, if you want more of your arrows back, you're going to have to speak up now, because as he brings the dragon out of the fog, you see another of them open up a bag. You've seen bags like this before. It is similar to a bag of holding, but as he opens it up, you can see that there are runes around the rim of this bag that you've not seen on a bag of holding before. Ask for your arrows. As he approaches the guy with the bag of holding, can I grab a couple more of my arrows back, please? They're particularly well made. I don't want to lose them. I'm going to make a persuasion check on your behalf here. Dice cam, here we go. I'm going to miss the trace. I'm going to roll with the other one. I'm going to get cocked dice. Eventually I'll get a nice number. There we go. 6 plus your 1 persuasion. Unfortunately, a 7 is not enough. The guy holding the dragon says, "Sorry, pal. You can find dice. You can find arrows elsewhere. We can replace your arrows, I'm sure." And he kind of dismisses you quickly as he places the head of this dragon lolling, and you can kind of hear gristly grating of broken bones as the dragon's head kind of lolls. He places the head into this bag of holdings, mouth first, and then in with the rest. He tucks the wings underneath and kind of folds them round, tucks him up sort of cocoon-like in his own wings. And then between like 3 of them who come over, 2 of them holding the bag mouth open and the other one kind of manipulating, reverse Mary Poppins style, he puts this dog-sized being through this 2-foot opening of this bag of holding into the bag and disappears into a space that should not be enough to hold him. They put the satchel back over it, and one of them holds it over his shoulder. At least we know he's dead now. Yep. What a pathetic end for Luscifrique. I know, right? To answer your question before, whoever said it, yes, you can buy those items yourself as well. They're available at hunting shops if they are magical inclined. So somewhere the size of Fonderg. Possible that Sam might have one or be able to get one at her hunting spot, but it's unlikely. A large city that is likely to have more of a magic shop, for instance, you'd be able to get them relatively quickly. I think I labelled them as they're a magic item of my creation, which you can find. Here's a plug for my Patreon. On my Patreon under Magic Items, I've homebrewed a whole bunch of things, including the Binding of the Hunter, and I think I labelled them as uncommon, so you can buy them there. Oh, also, plug for my Patreon. Under my new items, you can find those things. Under my new monsters, if you are a tier of my Patreon that can get new monsters, you can also now find Luscifrique's stat block. I put that on last night. So if you're interested to know what Luscifrique, what his stat block was, I homebrewed him as a sort of mixture between young dragon and adult dragon. He was right on the verge. He was just under 100 years old, I think he was. From memory, I can't remember exactly his age, but it was somewhere around early 90s, I think. So if you want that, you can find Luscifrique's stat block, you can find the hunting binding, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So what now? You see that as his body has left the fog just still remains there. It's just stationary. It's not like solid, but it's like just the mist is swirling, but it's all staying to within like 30 feet of this dragon's corpse where it was, where this crack in the ground, this earthquake fissure still lasts. So what's our plan for the rest of the day? It's still early in the day. There are still many dragons out there, but they're no longer organized into a fighting army. Do we want to track them down and slay the rest of the half dragons? Do we want to just leave them and hope that they find a niche in the ecosystem? Go back to the Elven Dome. Go to the nursery with Dragonborn and Tammy. That's a good point as well. Tammy is on her own with the Dragonborn and a bunch of Dragonborn kids and a dragon fox and all that stuff. Did the king have any clerics on his roster? You ask that of them. You say, "Excuse me, sorry, what's your name?" And the attractive male guy turns and says, "My name's Jonathan." You say, do you have any clerics on your roster? And he says, "I'm afraid not, no. We have abilities," and he taps his satchel that each of them is wearing. Each of them has one of these bags on them. Well, not each of them. Like one and two of them sort of have one of these bags. It says we have abilities to transport our fallen back to the king and work with revivification there, but we do not bring clerics with. They are not common in the king's army. So as you make your way back to where the fight took place, you can see that the King's Guard, true to their word, are dealing with their own fallen. I think four of their number died. One from the Resilience Division and 3 humans, and each of them is getting a similar treatment to the Luscifrique. You can see that one of them is, as you're arriving, one of the humans, he's got his helmet removed, and one of the others is placing 2 copper pieces over his eyes, sprinkling some salt bay onto the front of his armor. They're placing copper pieces around the eyes. You can see that they're using the gauze around the head to keep the copper pieces on. The helmet goes back on over the gauze, and then the body immediately starts to shrink down. They go from medium size to tiny size, which is even smaller than small. It's about the size of a fairy usually, about yay big. And they take those bodies and they place them into the bag of colding, as they're called. They place them into the bags of colding, and their bodies are, as soon as they're in the bags of colding, they are no longer decomposing. The other people, though, the people that are not part of the King's Cross, part of the Fallen Guard, they are not being handled by the King's Guard. So what do you want to do about the fallen bodies? Obviously, it's not your job entirely, but there are other people around as well that are kind of standing, not sure what to do about Vala and Rebecca and Mark. Can we ask Jonathan if they can retrieve Vala's body for revival? You ask him. You say, Jonathan, can I just ask, the people who fell fighting, will they be also taken back to the king for revival? And he looks a little, I don't know if crestfallen's the right word. He looks a little like a doctor that's about to give you bad news, and immediately you have your answer. He says, I'm sorry, I wish we could, but that's against the policy of the Royal Guard, is that the Royal Cross, he says. If we were to take this, if we were to offer that revival service for everyone that we work alongside, your friends knew the risks when they offered to join us on this fight. Their involvement in this battle was entirely voluntary and made clear to them the risks of doing so. I'm afraid if the king simply doesn't have the resources to revive all. In fact, and I'm being completely honest with you, there's no guarantee that he will have the resources to revive even the ones of our own. Persuade! I'm afraid, Wabberjack, even with a nat 20, this is a thing that's not going to happen. It's a policy of the king, and this guy's not going to go against the wishes of the king. You do hear from nearby. Polython approaches and says, "Listen, I have enough resources back at the greenhouse. We can perhaps create a new body for one of the fallen. We do not have to decide now, but we should take them with us to perform rites. And if we decide it necessary or appropriate, we can create a new body for one of them. It is a very expensive process, and unfortunately without the necessary tinctures and herbs and salves, we can only perform the ritual once. The components of this ritual are worth many hundred gold pieces, possibly somewhere around 1,000. He's going to make us choose. Yes, I am indeed. I am indeed going to make you choose. Which of the 3 fallen people do you want to revive? But that's a question for another time. You have a few days before the spell is outside of its time limit. Thank him for his candour. Listen, Jonathan, thank you for being candid with me. I appreciate that. Will the town get any sort of reward for this? And he says they will. What's his voice? There will be some sort of compensation for the trouble that you've been through. Yes. We have been authorized to provide such compensation. Unfortunately, we do not have any gestures to Polython. We do not have the required tinctures and salves that you would need, but we perhaps can repay you the money needed to buy those again, should the time come by. Does it include Tauchu? Tauchu technically would still be within the time limit, yes. So well done. You've just added another option to the people to revive. All right. I feel like I'm getting lost in the direction where we are at the moment. So let's recap. The Royal Guard, the Royal Cross. I keep calling them the Royal Guard. The Royal Cross, which is the King's private army. They have lost 4 of their number. They have applied the things needed to shrink these people down and put them in their bags of coaling. So they have the bodies of their own fallen. And they're hoping to try for a revivification once they get back to the capital, Wendraven. As far as they're concerned, their side of things is coming to an end. They've slain the dragon. They've slain a great deal of the dragon's army. You can hear from them talking, let's say, that they do intend to slay the remainder of the dragon creatures, whatever they can do. Obviously, they're not going to stick around to try and find every single dragon rabbit. But they are going to track down, now that they are aware of them from you, they are going to track down the 4 remaining generals, the fox, the hedgehog, the deer, and the mole. They're going to stay until those 4 are killed, and then once those 4 are killed, they intend to skedaddle. As for the rest of the people from Fondurg, though, you have the Arcanists Entente has taken a serious blow because they've lost both Polython and Rebecca, who were the 2 most powerful wizards of the clan isn't the right word, the faction. They were the 2 most powerful wizards of the faction, so they've lost those 2. The druids have taken a bit of a hit in losing Mark because he was a relatively powerful druid. If we show the map now, then the King's Men will be interested in take charge of those places and all the stuff there too. Right, yeah, you've got a map on the inside of your cloak of the area, so if you want to point out to anyone, this is where he was hiding, this is where we think his lair is, all of that stuff. Can we scamper off to the Elven village, tell them what's happened, and while there collect our stuff, and then after skedaddle off to the waterfall place for a nosy around there? Yeah, that's definitely an option. Alright, so how many people are in favour of heading to the dome now? Let's put a... In fact, I don't need a poll, just let's get a general an idea in the chat. Put a thumbs up emote in the chat if you want to head to the dome. Put a thumbs down if you want to do anything else. We don't want them to massacre the Dragonborn, do we? That's genocide. As far as they're concerned, it's pest eradication. Didn't we last see the fox near the nursery? They'd want to know about that and Tammy. They might want to know about that and Tammy, yes, Sparrow, but a lot of people in Apis' synapses, I'm noticing, don't necessarily want the King's Royal Army to know all of the details, because they will claim everything for themselves, it seems. Alright, it's an overwhelming yes that we are going to go straight back to the dome. The stuff with the nursery, the stuff with the waterfall, the stuff with the necromancer, that can all wait. The stuff with the fallen people from Fondurg, that can wait. So we see the people of the remaining people from Fondurg, Charlie, Briar, Polython, all of these. They are collecting the bodies of the fallen, and they are starting the long journey back to Fondurg. We meanwhile are going to head to the dome. Cut to as arriving back to where the dome should be, but as we arrive, the first thing we notice is that we're not sure that we're going the right way when we realise that we don't see the dome in front of us. It's not until we reach the fire break that we recognise that, oh, this is where the dome was. But it would be incorrect to call it a dome now, because there is no sign of that thorn wall. With the death of Luscifrique, all of his magic that was holding up this thorny wall, keeping his prisoners engaged, has been broken. Can you ask if anyone knows how to say the dragon is dead, you are free in Elven, so we can yell that to the elves when we arrive? Well, when you arrive, there is little need to yell it to them, because it seems that as the dragon has fallen, the dome came down, and the people have not acknowledged that, obviously. There is a great deal of hubbub, let's say, in this relatively small elven village in the treetops. For the first time, you are seeing it in the daylight. You are seeing a distinct lack of undercover darkness around this village, and it looks very different. It looks almost hopeful, and it looks inspiring to see these large platforms and mezzanine floors of this treehouse village connected with rope bridges has gone from looking intimidating and overpowering and overbearing, looming down on you, to being lofty and beautiful, and you can really admire the sort of carpentry architecture that would have gone to support such weight in the treetops. There are details around the village that you can see, and with your relying on 16-foot dark vision before and oil lanterns, you could only ever see things in shadow. You missed a lot of the detail of the area. You can see the whole village now in great detail, and all of the people within it as well. The dragon hut, the Dragonborn's hut that was nearby, it doesn't look intimidating anymore. It just looks like a small shed that would be useful for using gardening tools. You can now see on the ground of the floor around the tree village that there were indeed once herb gardens and vegetable gardens down on the ground floor, and that hut that the Dragonborns have been living in was probably indeed a farming hut that was repurposed. You're seeing things in new light, new details of this village that you hadn't seen before. One such detail, though, is that you can see around that Dragonborn hut, on the outsides of it, are three of the larger elven folk that were captives here. You can see Tisharu, you can see Beladel and Olothair, and they are standing guard, it seems, outside of the hut when you arrive. The others are up in the treetops talking, and you can hear laughter. You can hear some sounds of some sounds of sort of joking around coming from up in the trees. Where do you want to go? Get your stuff back immediately. All right, so you head straight over to the Dragonborn hut where you know your stuff is being kept, and as you approach, Tisharu sees you and says, so I thought I'd better turn the lights on. It's been rather gloomy for a while. Welcome back. Didn't expect you to stick around once the dome fell. And Beladel, not quite as intent on jovialness, says, "What happened then? Is the dragon dead?" You say, "Luscifrique's dead. I killed him. We're free." Small exposition dump later. We cut to a few moments later, and there's several of the elves from up on the trees have now climbed down to hear your story because they've heard you arrive. You retell the story again once people who are late to the party. Wait, what was that? Is Luscifrique dead? And you start again. Yeah, Luscifrique's dead. This blah blah blah. Eventually, all dozen or so of the people that live here, including some that you never actually met in your time here, the foragers that live on the outside of the village, and the farmers that also live on the outside of the village, you barely got a chance to actually know of their existence, let alone meet them. You see, they have approached as well, and you tell the story again. Eventually, they also exposition to you that as soon as the dome fell, the Dragonborn nanny that was left here in charge of them, she was not equipped to deal with them revolting against her. They immediately overpowered her, tied her up, and she is now in the Dragonborn hut that that she was once in charge of. It is now turned into her prison. She is locked into the back room where all of your tools and equipment and weapons were confiscated and kept. They've cleared out that room. All of your stuff is now inside the main area of the hut, and she is instead locked in that back room. So now that all exposition is done, you have told them what the deal is. They also tell you that there was no attacks from the dragonborn rats and things on the outside of the village. As soon as the dome came down, all of the surrounding animals scampered. Understanding what the implications of that are. The mole did turn up. They say the mole turned up about halfway into it after they'd subdued the dragonborn. But he took one look around and left as well. Collect our stuff. We ask, can I grab my things back then? And Tisharu says, yes, of course. And Belladel says, yes, okay. And he steps to the side. Belladel, roll an insight check. Nat 1. You don't read anything other than antagonism from him. You walk past him into the Dragonborn hut and you see your stuff laid out. Everybody's stuff, all the weapons and confiscated items have been laid out on the bed and on the floor and things. Basically just somewhat unceremoniously dumped out of this room in order to have a room to lock her in. You can see that back room is locked and padlocked still. And there's kind of like a whimpering almost from within that room. You walk over and recover your items for the first time in several days and even more sessions. You get back your fire arrows. You get back your tranquilizer arrow. You get back, let's see, vials of blood I can place on. Your bedroll was pretty much destroyed, pushing your way into this village, so you don't have that anymore. You've got your sword back. You have a long sword that you've got back. I think that's pretty much everything that was stolen from you, I believe, right? You should casually have an image for a vial of blood. Yeah, we did it when we had the Manticore, remember? We took some of the Manticore's blood, so I got Spidey to make me a vial of blood. Return the kitchen knife now that we have a hunting knife. Yeah, so you swap out the kitchen knife for your hunting knife, get that back. Can we pinch a bedroll? I mean, sure, why not? Why not? Let's say that there's a bedroll there that you can take, and you've got your bedroll. There we go. Now, so that we can get a full, nice full inventory again. Looks better that way. Our net. Oh yeah, we had a net at some point, didn't we? That was taken as well. All right. Yes. So there you go. You have your net back as well. Add the scales. Yeah, I don't have a picture for scales, but we'll add that at some point. All right. Enough. What are we doing? We have what's your intention? Do you want to learn from the elves what their intention is? What they're going to do now? Do you want to talk with them? Do you want to leave them and go and find the nursery? Do we want to tell them all about the nursery and stuff? What's the plan? Need to help Tammy because she doesn't know what's happened. Be aware though that around Tammy there may still be the fox, there may still be the hedgehog, there may still be a great number of the dragon rats and things, and of course there's the dragonborn and the dragonborn children. It would be nice to learn everything that they didn't tell us. Reverse exposition dump. Sure. So you say like, hey, so listen, there's another village to the north of here, and he says, yes, we're aware. One of the elves. Yes, we're aware it's a sister village. And you say, yes. He was using that as, that's where he took me this morning. He was using that as like a base. He has some dragonborn children there. That's where this lady came from. You point to the locked room. She was looking after the children there. He's got like half a dozen dragonborn children. There's a dragonborn nanny that's looking after them. There's a lot of the half dragon creatures. There's a dragon fox. There's a like a military map there and all sorts of things. Would one of them recognise the thing on that? Yes, one of them has. Let's say who's got good eyes. Rathal's pretty observant. The cleaner / levels in bard. She says, Is that the map that's on your cloak? And you say, oh, you saw that. And she says, yes, I tend to see, I tend to look out for stains on clothing and things, and your cloak definitely didn't have that design on the inside of it last time I saw you. You say, yes, yeah, I took a copy of the map down so that I wouldn't lose it. I'd be able to find my way around. The directions, and she goes, we know where it is. As Belladella says, it is a sister village of ours. Well, there's a human woman there that needs our help, and I don't know if you want to stay here or come with, but I'm going to go. I'm going to make my way there and help her out now. Are Dragonborn inherently evil, or is it just they're raised to be evil? Would Apis know this? Apis knows a lot about dragons. Let me roll you a dragon check, intelligence-based. This is a history check. You are not proficient in history, so it's just a +3. Now let me head up to the camera. You do have advantage because it's dragon-based, so that is an 11 on the sparkly one. So that is 14. With a 14 history check, you would know that Dragonborn, if they are pure color, like the ones that were in charge of this guarding situation are, if they're a pure color like pure green, pure blue, what have you, then it usually means that they have kept their lineage pretty close to not interbreeding with other Dragonborn. That is usually an indication that they have been raised in a situation where there are lots of the same Dragonborn, which is usually an indication that they are a Dragonborn worshipping clan, a dragon worshipping clan. So that's a long-winded way of saying that yes, they are usually evil if they are pure color, if they are a pure green, pure blue, what have you. These ones being pure green is because they were raised by a dragon and only ever bred with other green Dragonborn, and so they are probably raised to have the green dragon's sensibilities. You have met Dragonborn in your travels as a wanderer, as an outlander. You've met Dragonborn that aren't evil, but they usually have sort of a muddy color of mixed heritage of lots of different Dragonborn. They could have some metallic Dragonborn in them. Obviously, the metallic dragons are not evil. They're good creatures. The gold and the bronze and the brass and all of that. So with the 14, you kind of have a lot of information, but none of it's super clear to you. You're not sure whether these Dragonborn are inherently evil or taught to be evil or irredeemably evil. It's hard for you to know exactly. The King's Guard are going to take care of the fox, and they know where it is. We won't arrive in time, potentially, so any willing elves to the waterfall there now. Okay, is that the plan? Is that what you want to do instead? Leave the other village for the King's Guard? We do help when we can, so going for the Dragonborn village makes sense in character, but I wonder whether we might not be wasting our time if the King's men are already going there after the fox. The children wouldn't be inherently evil? Probably not. It depends how old they are and whether a lot of the teachings of the Green Dragon have already kind of taken hold in them. Can we break the cycle with those still alive? You would, with a 14, you would know that it is possible to raise a Dragonborn to be less evil. But the purer they are, the pure blood, as it were, the more likely it is that they have some kinds of genetic disposition to tendencies of the dragon that they emulate. So pure green Dragonborn, like these ones are, would inherently have some amount of the green dragon's sensibilities. But a great deal of it would be learned behaviour as well. We could use this nanny as a trade to free Tammy, yep. Alright, it seems like there's a toss-up between freeing Tammy and going to the waterfall. What to do now? Free Tammy, i.e. go to the sister village, or go to the waterfall. For those who don't remember or weren't here, the waterfall is, as far as we know, where Luscifrique's lair was, where he actually slept and potentially kept his treasure and stuff. 2/3 of Apis wants to go to the waterfall with 66% of the vote. So we're going to leave the situation with Tammy to the King's Guard, hoping that they'll deal with it appropriately. You've told them where to go anyway, so they're going to head that way. And you're going to head for the waterfall. See if you can find where Luscifrique laid his head to rest. Let's put another short rest to say hit dice. Actually, don't need a poll for it. Just thumbs up, thumbs down in the chat. Do you want to take a short rest now? Short rests in my game are half an hour per hit dice. If you want to use 2 of them, it'll take an hour. If you want to use 4 of them, it'll take 2 hours. All right, yes, overwhelming yeses coming in. So Apis is going to take a short rest. How many hit dice do you want to roll? Let me put this to a poll, just a 1 minute poll real quick. There's 0, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. In my games, you only get 1 hit dice back per long rest. You have a total of 5. You are 1 down already. You get 1 hit dice back per long rest. So you can choose to use all of them and take 2 hours to rest right now before going to the waterfall. You'll regain 4d10 plus 8 if you do that. For each hit dice that you roll, you regain 1d10 plus 2. And you are on 15 hit points, 15 of 56. The brewers do not have any spare healing potions. No, they used them all during the initial fight with the Dragonborn. They wanted to make sure that none of them had even the hint of a scratch or anything after that fight, in order to further their story that the Dragonborn escaped rather than were killed. Play it by ear. Use 1 dice at a time. If 2 isn't enough, use more. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Yeah, hit dice. Most people saying use 2, so let's do that. We'll roll for the first one first. Let's have a look. This one, that's a mel dice. Let's turn on the dice cam here. Where's your mel? Here we go. That's a D8. Where are all the D10s? There's one. That's a percentage. There it is. That's what I'm after. Here we go. All right. And there's the other one. All right. So 2d10. 2d10. Hey, look at that. 10 and a 4. 10 and a 4 plus 4, so you get 18 hit points back. So it takes you from 15 up to 33. You are on 33 of 56. 33 of 56. How are people feeling about that? Do you want to continue the rest or move on? Rest more. Use more of them. Move on. You're on 33 of 56. Sparrow wants 1 more, but everybody else is saying that's enough. Cure Wounds is 1d8 plus 2. Cure Wounds is 1d8 plus 2, so slightly less than a half hour of resting. So we have rested for an hour in this village. It's about noon now, and most people saying, nah, we're going to move on, that's enough. So let me think, what is happening at the village while you are doing your thing? Alright, so while you are resting, around you, people are starting to make plans to move. They've been trapped in this village for 3 years, and they are starting to move on. So Nim is the human artificer that was captured just yesterday and brought into the village. He's worked with material components a lot with magic, and he has helped to take the bracer of Tao Chu off and tinker with it, activate it, put it back on to help guide the army to where you were coming in the first place. You've taken down, as part of this short rest, you've taken down the bodies of Tao Chu and the lady, I can't remember her name, and you've sort of laid them on the ground, resting there. While you rest also. Nim tells you that he is... well, actually, do you let Nim know that Vala and Rebecca had fallen or not? Because he is another member of the Arcanists Entente, so he would be a colleague and potentially friend of those people. Yes, we'd let him know the fallen, yeah. So he's shocked. He seems in shock of that, and very disappointed to hear that his 2 friends and colleagues have fallen in the battle. but he also looks like he has a determination. He needs to get back. He doesn't want to stick around. As soon as you've told him all of this stuff, he says that he's setting off back to Fondurg immediately. He mentions, sort of mumbles to himself, almost something about his sister, and then sets off back towards Fondurg. Cassandra and Logan hear him leaving and very quickly run to catch up with him, saying that they need to get back to Fondurg as soon as possible as well. Cassandra is all kinds of a mess. She's obviously overwhelmed with the hope that has now evaded her after the absolute gloom of thinking that she was going to die as a prisoner to a dragon. She now has hope that she's going to survive. She's only a young woman herself, so she's not had to deal with anything remotely like this in her life yet, in her short life. She runs over to you and gives you a hug and says thank you, and then runs to catch up with Nim as he's leaving. Beladel and Olothea, the cooks of this village, they disappear from where you are and head back up to the village, and you can hear them sort of clattering. And by the end of your hour, by the end of your hour's rest, they have come back down with very small possessions, small amounts of baggage and luggage for themselves. And you hear them talking with some of the other people in the village in Elvish. I'm going to just roll a perception check for you real quick. That is a 1, so you do not hear it. You just hear them talking in Elvish. You don't pick up on any words, and then they sort of nod in your direction and they start to leave. Tell them about the Four Sisters' existence. You call out to them as they're leaving. You say, if you need a place to go, there's 4 elven villages north of Shadridge. At this point, they stop and slowly turn towards you, and Beladel says, "How do you know of their existence?" You say, I've been there." He puts his bags down and starts to come back towards you. He says, "You've been to the Four Sisters?" You say, "Yes, I've helped them with a problem they were having with goblins and rebuilding." And his which villages? You say, "Well, I've been to Helwerin, Dolben Ilawad, and Munglofau. I helped them harvest the prin flowers." And he sort of cocks his head at that and says, "Huh. Perhaps you're not as incompetent as I thought you were. I'm sorry for misjudging you. My wife and I are heading to stay with relatives in Orachel." You say, yeah, our rope came from them actually, and you take out your rope of commanding, and it sort of stands there like a charmed snake. And then it drops back down. He says, "Huh. Well, good luck to you." And then he turns and picks up his bags and heads out. And you have confirmation that he's heading up to Arachel, the village of the Four Sisters that is least welcoming to outsiders. They're diviners and soothsayers and very elven in their xenophobia towards other races. It's a long way away, yes. It's up to the north, and it's up to the northeast by like a day's journey at least, day and a half probably. So they leave. Then Rathal, as she sees them leaving, she says, I think I'm going as well." She comes over to you. "Thank you for your help. This is actually notably the first time that you've seen most of these people's faces, because they were wearing dragon skull masks for the most part. And obviously, since the walls fell, none of them are wearing their dragon skull masks. So it's the first time you're seeing most of their faces. Not Sharu, because you've seen him as he's taken his mask off. Not Rithal, because she was one of the only people that weren't forced to wear a mask. But all of the others, you've caught only a glimpse of their face before at most. But she approaches and says, I'm grateful for your friendship in the very short time that I've known you. I wish you good luck with all that you do, but I need to leave now. And then she leaves and starts to pack her bags. Do we still have to get a cloak from there? Yes, you do. Yep. You killed a displacer beast. You harvested its pelt, and then you gave it to the people of the Four Sisters. And in thanks for helping them out, they promised to make you a displacer cloak out of it, and that is still up there waiting for you to collect. As Rithal is getting her stuff ready, you go and see her and say, "Do you want to see if any of your valuables in the Luscifrique's lair before you go? I'm going to be heading that way as soon as I've kind of caught my breath." And Rithal says, "There is nothing of mine that I would want from that lair. He took all I wanted. All that I could have possibly wanted, he took from me. And it's not stuff that I can get back. If there's anything in there, you can have it." And she continues leaving her stuff and collecting her stuff. Alana is the sculptor, and Alana says that she also wants to leave. You hear her talking with somebody, and they start to sort of like chatter, kind of in a lively kind of way, like what do we do now? What should we do about it? Alana, you hear one of them say in common. Alana, why not make a statue to commemorate the fall of this dragon? And she says, "I was thinking the same thing. Yes, I have a little inspiring soul searching to do. I think I'm going to visit my father in Pisglanta first. I'm going to think on the what structure the statue should take. It will be nice to be able to put time into my work again. I'm going to go for a wander, I think. And when I come back, I will make a start on this something." She looks over to you as she sees that you're overhearing and says, maybe you'll make it into the structure, Apis. Thank you for your help." And a few others, now hearing her sort of shouting this across the village, also turn and say, "Yes, Apis, thank you for your help. Thank you for your help, Apis. Couldn't have done it without you. And thank you to Charlie as well. If you see him again, can you tell him I really appreciate everything he did for us." The farmer that you'd only met once when you almost stole from his garden, comes over and says, "I'm sorry that we got off on the wrong foot, Apis, but I appreciate all that you've done for the village." And he kind of gives you one of these sort of handshakes to say that there's all is forgiven, as it were, when you almost stole from his herb garden. And the rest of them, other than Alana, Rathal, Bella, and Belladel, and Olathea, the rest of them are going to stay and rebuild this village to make it more what it was. Tasharu, being a carpenter, is going to stay and physically rebuild the village, make new areas and things, room for expansion, fix up the areas that he hasn't been able to fix up for the last few years. And the rest of them are going to get back to foraging and farming and going about their life, trying to rebuild the life that was taken from them. Any of Charlie's gear need reclaiming? I mean, probably yes. Yeah, I'll say you go in and grab Charlie's gear. He probably would have a druid staff. Mind you don't want to be carrying that around with you. You've not got a bag of holding, so you can grab any of Charlie's gear on the way back through, I'd say. What do you want to say? Show the dragon on the back of the cloak. I mean, sure, why not? You turn around and open up the cloak and you say, "Look at this, Ralana, for inspiration." You turn around and show this Luscifrique the dragon. What do you show him as a crumpled mess that when he was dead? He can be like, you can put me with my foot up on his corpse. You don't lose the map on the inside, no. Use it on the back. Just the skull with the Ultimas facing arrows. That's cool. Yeah, on the back of your cloak is the dragon's skull with the arrows crossed through his face, like Ultimas' crossed arrows. And you say, "Look at this. Ultima has blessed my hunt this morning," and she sort of lets out a bit of a cheer, and then starts getting her stuff ready. So we can then head off to the waterfall. As we search for this waterfall, I'll have you make a survival check. You know the general area that it is. You've got the map of where there was claw prints, claw scratches, as if something was being pointed to on the map by a dragon claw. So you've got a forest bonus to this. You also have advantage and a stealthy survival +9, I think it is, isn't it? +9 with advantage. I think you should be okay. But there's always that chance, isn't there? Alright, dice cam on. What is that? That is a 16 and a 14. That's good. 16 + 9, 25. With a 25, it takes you only about half an hour's walking and searching to find the river, and only another like 10 minutes to walk upstream to find the waterfall. You find a very large waterfall in a very large water basin, probably a couple of 100 feet across. And there is a giant waterfall coming down over this 100-foot wide section of wall. It's one of these waterfalls that it comes in only a few, 10, 20 feet wide or whatever, and then it spreads out relatively thin over the hard rocks of the edge of the waterfall, and then spreads out. So it's a relatively thin waterfall, but very wide, if you know what I'm saying. Thin but very wide waterfall. Look for signs of creatures. With that same survival check, you can see that there are signs of creatures. There are a few half-dragon creatures around, but all small things, no wolves, no rats, just a half-dragon squirrel or two that you've seen, and maybe like a rabbit or a bird, like a half-dragon bird has flown over the head once or twice. So what do you want to do? His lair could be behind the waterfall, it could be underneath the waterfall, it could be in the river, it could even be that you've misunderstood the map and his lair isn't anywhere around here. So what do you want to do? You could ask a dragon squirrel in Draconic. Luscifrique asked me to get to his lair. Is there an easy entrance I can use? Wonderful. Alright, I'm going to get you to make a deception check. The DC is relatively low because he's only a squirrel. 7 + 1 deception, 8. 8. Let me see, actually. Let me grab my... Let me grab this. Setting a DC. Very easy, exceptionally easy, easy. So this would have been an easy thing, which would have been a DC 9. And you got an 8. So unfortunately, you... Ooh, with our mask on for advantage. Okay, yes. With our mask on for advantage, I'll allow that. 3. So it's still nothing. You're not very good at lying. Apis time and time again has proven that they're not very good at lying. So you try your best. You get your mask on and you approach a dragon squirrel and you say in Draconic, Luscifrique asked me to get into his lair. Is there a way in? And he says, If Luscifrique wanted you in his lair, he should have told you where it was. And then kind of backs away suspiciously. It wasn't such a bad roll that he like outright attacks you or becomes hostile towards you. He was right on the verge of success, but he's also not just going to give up his dad's lair because some strangers told him to. So second attempt, Sparrow's attempt here, we're going to find a regular animal nearby, take off the mask, and try animal handling in Sylvan to ask it to point out the lair instead. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We will roll an animal handling check. You're speaking to it in Sylvan, which makes it slightly easier. It makes the lower DC. Again, it's going to be an easy, which means DC 9. Animal handling, 17, much better. 17 plus your animal handling plus your stuff. That's going to be plenty enough. You find what's a forest critter that I haven't really used. Let's say this is a creature that lives in the wild of England around waterways. You find an otter. You find an otter nearby the riverbank, and you take out a little bit of your rations and use your best animal handling to persuade it not to run away scared. And then once it gets close, you ask it in Sylvan, which is a language that beasts don't necessarily understand, but they're more likely to understand it than to respond to it than any other language. You ask it, have you seen like large monster fly into here? Does he live anywhere around here? Is there a monster nearby? You ask him best you can, and the otter sort of gives you a knowing sort of acknowledgement, not exactly like nodding his head, but essentially, and then ducks into the water, and you can kind of keep a track of him as he swims upstream into the it's not called a caldera, is it? The base of the waterfall, there's a word for it, I think. The lake at the base of the waterfall. He swims into that. You kind of lose sight of him a little bit, and then he up onto a rock right near where the waterfall's coming down, and then kind of like looks up the waterfall. So what's your plan with the magic rope? How are you going to get through this waterfall? Plunge pool, that's it. Thank you, Wraith. Plunge pool. Get closer to the waterfall, see if we can see the cave. All right, let's do a perception check. I'm gonna remember to send my dice. Come on for this. Perception, cocked. Perception, 16. 16 plus stuff will be enough. You do see, as you get close to the waterfall, now that you have reason to believe that there might be a cave behind it, you look past it and you're pretty sure, yes, you can see like a dark sort of opening behind it that is potential for a cave. Consider if the magic rope could help in the situation. Well, I mean, the magic rope can extend outwards and grab a hold of things, but there's just nothing to grab a hold of. You could send it through the water and into the cave and then just tell it, like, hold on to something, and then hope it finds, like, a stalactite to hold on to or something. It's possible. Primeval awareness allows us to check if there's anything behind the waterfall. Absolutely it would, yeah. You could use primeval awareness with one of your remaining 2 spell slots and ask it, are there any X things behind the waterfall, like dragons, aberrations, celestials, undead, whatever it is. Knock an arrow, you could fire something behind the waterfall, see if you hit something. Do we smell any green smoke? You don't. No poison in this area that you can smell. What's your plan, guys? How are you going to get into this cave? It's in the middle of this waterfall, so you can try and you could get down from above. You could rappel, like if you went down to the top of where the waterfall is and tie off the rope to something, and then like go over the waterfall. And then you'd be like hanging in the waterfall. You could maybe swing yourself in. There's some danger in that, obviously. Is Mel with us? Yeah, Mel's... If in doubt, now that Mel has been returned to you, Mel is with you. So part of your short rest before was you catching up with Mel as well. Throw a rock. You get a rock out and you throw it. And you manage to through the water and you don't hear it hit rock. So it has gone past the waterfall and into a cave on the other side of it. Does the otter know an easier way in? Potentially. It would require another animal handling check now. So you get over to the waterfall and you try and like animal handling this otter to come back over to you to ask if there's another way in. 5. Yeah, 5. 5 plus your animal handling is 3 plus another 2 from your wisdom. So that's 5 plus 5, 10. 10 total from your animal handling. It's a forest animal, so I could give you forest bonus as well. So 13, still not enough. The otter comes back over and you try and explain what you're wanting from it, but it kind of just doesn't respond. It either doesn't understand the question or it doesn't know how to answer. Ask Mel to fly around and see if she can see anything. She does so. For expediency's sake, I will roll for Mel. She makes a... it's not great. She does a scout of the area and comes back after 10 minutes and says she can't see any other obvious ways in or out. Tie her up to a solid looking rock above the opening. Indiana Jones our way in. You could definitely try that if you want. We're at the bottom of the waterfall right now. Can we ask Dra-gone with the mask on? We know the lair is through the waterfall and want to know if there's an easier way in. Alright, we can try that again. It's essentially the same thing that we've already tried, and we're trying it again, which means the DC is higher. So you have Dra-gone, you have the mask. I'll give you advantage. You are going to ask something of the dragon's creatures in the area, and because this is a thing you've already tried and failed once, if you try and fail again, there's a good chance that these creatures will turn hostile towards you. So that is a 12. That one was kind of cocked. I'll roll that again. Or an 11. So 12 or 11. 12 plus your whatever it was, intimidation, persuasion. Either way, it's a +1. So a 13. 13 wasn't a failure enough for them to get hostile and attack you. But the squirrel that you're talking to says, "No other way in," and then disappears into the trees. You don't have enough of a roll to know that he was telling you the truth or whether he was just dismissing you. Can we have Mel bring out the rope into the cave and loop it over something? You could try, but Mel is a giant bee, and if she flies through a waterfall, there's a chance that the water will be too much for her flying and she gets hurt. She gets ploughed back down into the plunge pool. Can we find the ladder that leads to the surface at the back of his lair? Mel's already looked for something like that and couldn't find it. Salmon run up the waterfall. Try magic rope first. The magic rope carries your weight, you know that much for sure. Alright, let's say then you take out your magic rope. You stand at the very edge of the water, the plunge pool, and so that it's within range of the rope's extension, and you tell the rope to extend outwards. It heads over that way. You can feel the end get suddenly heavier as it hits the water, but with the magic of it is keeping it up in the direction it was going. And then once it passes through the waterfall at an angle into the cave, you tell it to grab a hold of something. And I'm going to roll a percentage check to see if it has something to grab a hold of within reach. You tell it to grab a hold and nothing happens. You kind of tug back on the rope and it comes back out of the waterfall. Damn it. You send it in again and tell it to grab a hold of something. Still nothing. You bring it back out. It doesn't seem like there's stalactites or stalagmites in there for it to grab a hold of. There's nothing for it to tie itself to. So you got nothing. Nothing from the ground. You might have to Indiana Jones your way in. Top of the waterfall. Alright, so you start to climb up the edge of the cliff face here. You get up the top. It's taken about half an hour or so of mucking about to try and get to this situation. You get to the top, easy enough to tie something here because there's trees and things around, trees and large rocks. So you tie one end of the magic rope to this side. And what's your thinking? Are you going to tie the other side to you and running jump off and try and swing into the cave, or are you just going to like carefully sort of abseil down and try and like climb into the cave? Can we Misty Step? We don't have Misty Step. Don't have any spell slots of 2nd level. Abseil or yeet. Here we go. Here's the poll. We've done a poll similar to this before. Apis is getting flashbacks. How to get into the cave. Abseil or yeet. We've done a similar poll to this before. Apis gets flashbacks to the moment that they jumped into the portal of air, the plane of air. Do we tie ourselves? We've tied off ourselves to the rock. Do we run and jump out from the waterfall, and then the rope will swing us in through the waterfall into the cave, hopefully? Or do we just like clamber down and get in through the water that way and like risk drowning? So you get to the edge and you try and abseil your way down. All right, this is going to be a I feel like this is a constitution-based athletics check because it's more about your stamina than your strength. You are being assailed by a great force of water. As you are abseiling down, the water is coming over you and your arms and legs, and you're having to keep your head above it. And it's much more about your stamina than your strength because you're already tied onto the rope. The rope is a magic rope, so it's like you can just tell it to descend you. You don't have to worry about like letting it out at the right speed and stuff, but you're still having to use your athletics to get your feet in the right positions and stuff. So this is constitution-based athletics check. You are proficient in athletics and you have a +2 constitution, so this is a +5. +5. That is a 4. So that is a 9. You immediately slip and take 6 points of bludgeoning damage, and you are starting to drown. You have the wind knocked out of you as you slip, and you take 6 points of bludgeoning damage as you scrape along the rock, and then the magic rope is unable to do anything without your command, and your command means verbal command, and you cannot verbally command when you are underwater. You have turned sideways. You have slipped and then turned into the rock sideways, and the water is pushing down over your head, and you need to get yourself back out to actually be able to breathe before you can tell your rope to command anything. Doesn't our rope give us advantage for climbing, though? Yeah, in normal situations, you would have had disadvantage for climbing in this situation, and because you're climbing down a waterfall. Push off with the legs. All right, so this is going to be a strength check to get yourself back out into this. 18 plus your strength check, you push yourself back out again. You manage to get your feet beneath yourself, feet on the wall, horizontally out from the wall, so you are far enough out that the water is no longer forcing its way up your nose with great power. This hasn't gone too well so far. You can continue if you want, or you can retrace your steps and try another way in. You're on 27 of 56 hit points, so you are now below half. Continue. All right. So one more constitution-based athletics check to get in. You've got a +5. Do you have? No, you don't have advantage. 8 plus 5, 13. 13 is enough that you don't start drowning from it this time, but you do take another amount of. You take another 1 point of bludgeoning damage as you are scraping and cutting yourself over the sharp, slippery rocks. But eventually, one of your feet goes down to hit rock in abseiling kind of fashion. One of your left foot goes down to hit rock and it misses rock entirely. There's nothing there. It spins you in and you slip through the water and come out the other side, and you are kind of just hanging underneath the waterfall in the mouth of this cave, half getting splashed by the water and half just with nothing to hold on to. But you are in the cave now and relying on dark vision to see anything in here. So you give the rope the command to extend, and it lowers you to the mouth of this cave, and then you scrabble off the slimy rocks until eventually you are into the cave proper and standing up. You untie the rope from yourself so that you can actually explore the cave, and you can see around you to the mouth of this cave. It is relatively large. It looks like, actually, here's something that doesn't come up all that often. As a dwarf, you have stonework history. So you can see down in your features, you have stonework history, which gives you a double your proficiency bonus to anything related to stonework. So this is a history check, which is +3 from intelligence, and then because it's stonework, it's another 6. So you've got a +9 to this check. You are going to do a stonework check on the cave around you. 16 + 9, 25. With 25 on your stonework, you look around and you see that this is a natural cave that had formed, but the floor of it is unnatural. The floor of it was manipulated by magic. The reason for why the waterfall wasn't going into a plunge pool, which normally circulates back underneath the waterfall and forces the waterfall to sort of retract, The reason for that it's not doing that is that the floor of this cave is solid rock that was manipulated by magic and is no longer getting worn away by that waterfall. It was seemingly designed perhaps by the dragon to prevent his lair from being eroded into. The walls of it have also been manipulated to be slightly larger and wider than the cave would naturally have been, because his wings obviously need to be able to fit into this when he flies through the waterfall to get inside. The evidence of that is everywhere and very clear. The water on the floor of this stonework it reaches in from the waterfall much further than it should normally, so obviously something with great power is coming through the waterfall and blasting water all over the cave on the inside. And then even further in than that reaches is a significant pile of stuff that you can just about make out from this distance with your dark vision. You don't hear any voices, you don't hear any sounds, you don't hear any scuttling or sounds of life forms in here. You knock an arrow and check for danger. And as you're looking around, you start to make your way towards the back of the cave. You see that very quickly you find out that there is no life form in here, no cages full of people, no creatures, no guards, no nothing. It seems that Luscifrique was reliant on the hidden nature of this cave in order to keep it safe, rather than traps and guards. Looking around for traps, like physical traps, tripwires and things, you don't see anything. Magical traps, if there was some, you wouldn't be able to know about it until it's too late, because you don't have detect magic or find traps or any similar magic. So you'd have to just hope for the best. As you get to the back of the cave, though, you can see that there is a large pile of stuff that Luscifrique would likely sleep on. You can start looking through it, and if you take 20 essentially to search through it, I'll just tell you everything that you find. You find for the most part, the vast majority of this pile of things is miscellaneous items that the elves probably would have had in their village when he attacked the two different villages. There's lots of cutlery, lots of candlesticks, nice furniture, or once nice furniture that's probably gotten splintered from him sleeping on it. You find a decent quality rope and various different gardening tools. It's not, as far as a dragon hoard goes, it doesn't strike you as amazing. It's not like piles of gold and treasure and jewelry. Luscifrique has only been out on his own, making his own name for himself for like 3 years or so. So he hasn't really had time to accrue a giant hoard. What he has hoarded is everything that the elves had. You start pushing through it. You find a bunch of things that would be probably keepsakes from the elves, portraits, artwork that seems like it was hand drawn by children, small instruments, a few books. Among the instruments, you find a harp, which looks like it's a pretty nice harp, and it probably would be worth an okay amount of money. It's one of those. They call them portable harps or mini harps or whatever. It's not like a massive, like full length, big as you are harp. You find a few more paintings that look like they'd be decent quality. They're in good frames and decent oil paintings by the looks of it. You find several sculptures ranging in quality. Lots of like 2 or 3 stone sculptures that probably look like something of Rathal's doing and very good quality. And then a few different wooden sculptures that are getting progressively worse in quality. Like, they're still okay, but they're not nearly what you'd expect of an elven quality sculpture. You find a jewelry box. You open up a jewelry box and find that it is pretty stuffed with jewelry. There's probably quite a decent chunk of monetary value in this jewelry box. Nearby that, you find another chest, and as you open it up, it is filled with coins. There are a lot of coins in this chest. This is probably the most value of anything in this hoard, but it was a single chest, so that's probably something that he could have stolen from his father's hoard when he escaped. probably taken from Luscifrique's hoard. You also find something else that was almost definitely stolen from Luscifrique's hoard, in that there would not be anywhere in this vicinity that would possibly have a ship's figurehead. You find a very large, very ornately designed ship's figurehead made of wood that seems to resemble an anthropomorphic dolphin. It's a sort of dolphinoid cetacean head, blending seamlessly into a very muscular, almost humanoid torso. And the pectoral muscles of the torso have got like swirled patterns on them, on the pecs of this male identifying humanoid torso. It's a very large figurehead, much larger than you are as a dwarf, probably about 7 feet or so long from tip to tail. And the only other thing of worth and noteworthiness that you find is a quiver. A quiver that looks like it's very nice. It's a elven made, probably. The stitching of it is impeccable, and you can see that there are magic runes around the rim of this quiver. Any loose scales? There probably would be a couple of loose scales, like nothing, like saucer, cup and saucer size scales that have fallen off or broken off. Treasure's all well and good. What about the rest of the cave? That's all there is in the cave. It's just a single way in, single way out through the waterfall, and it's dug back far enough that he can keep his treasure in here and sleep on it. I think we take anything that's clearly not elf and then go back and tell the elves about their things. I like the sound of that quiver and the jewellery box and the big box of gold. There's no way that you're carrying this crate of coins. And I didn't say gold, I said coins. As you look in them, you realise that a great deal of it is gold, but there's also some silver and some platinum in there as well. The magic quiver of the DM is tired of tracking ammo. I mean, what? Can we take the quiver, the jewellery box, and as much gold as we can carry without encumbering ourselves? Yes, we can do that. So, I'm not going to go through the... I'm not going to make you stand here and wait while I muck around with the inventory to account for all that stuff. We will take what we can carry in terms of gold and whatnot. I need to ask Spidey to create a new area for our coin purse down there for platinum items, because there are platinum coins in there as well. With another sort of 10 minutes or so, you can get a rough estimate of what's in this chest. The chest itself would probably hold somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 coins, and it's pretty much full. So some of it is platinum, some of it's gold, some of it's silver, but all in all, there's about 1,000 coins or so. So you're not carrying all of those with you. But you want the quiver. You equip the quiver, as it were. Put it sling it over your shoulder, and I'm just going to look up if that requires attunement right now. I don't believe it requires attunement. It does not require attunement. So as you pull out this quiver and place it on over your head, you immediately get cursed. No, I'm joking. There's no curse on it. But what there is in it are a couple of arrows sticking out, some fletching arrows sticking out. You notice that there are 3 sections to this quiver. There's a long section up the top, right by where your body is. There's a medium section on, like, the main section of it is on the body of it, as it were, and then there's a much smaller sort of side pouch down one side as well. The main body, the side pouch, as it were, has 3 arrowheads sticking out of it, and the other 2 pouches don't have anything sticking out of them. So we grab some of the coins, some of the items, the quiver, the coins, and what else was the jewelry box. You can probably hold the jewelry box. You've got a pretty full inventory now, but you can probably hold the jewelry box somewhere in there. Stuff it in your bag or something. Take note of the ship's figurehead. Add a tiny version to the inside of the cloak picture next to the spot with the cave on the map. Okay, yeah. I'll allow that, yeah. Leave the jewellery, it's sentimental to the elves, okay. I'm gonna have to take some votes on these things, aren't I? Take the jewellery. So take the jewellery doesn't mean for ourselves, it just means like, do we take it right now? Do we take it back to the elves? Do we leave it here? We could take it and keep it, we could take it and give it to them. We could take it and sell it. But are we going to take it? Can we fill the quiver with coins as it seems everyone wants to steal the gold? Yeah, okay, we start to, we grab a few handfuls of the coins and place them into which of the 3 pouches, which are the 3 sections. The biggest section. So we drop the gold coins into the biggest section, and you do not hear them hit the ground of this the bottom of this quiver. You drop the coins into the quiver, you do not hear them hit the bottom. You look into the quiver and realise that you don't see them either. You put your hand down into that section, and it extends out through the bottom of the through the quiver. And you fish around and you can feel the coins. And you bring them out and you have the coins. You drop them back in again, they disappear. You realise that this quiver is, to a certain extent, got similar enchantments to a bag of holding. It is indeed a quiver of Elona, or an efficient quiver, but with an extra enchantment on it. Fill it up with the coins! It's a quiver of holding! It is a quiver of holding. So you grab coins and you start putting platinum coins. Put platinum coins into the quiver. You can't chuck everything in there, Faye, because remember the figurehead in this hoard is like 7 feet long, and this quiver is a quiver. Each of the mouths is like that big, so you can fit in as much as can fit into a mouth of a quiver like that. So you start grabbing coins and chucking it in there, and I will do the calculations later as to how many coins you can fit in. I imagine it's probably all of them. So the results were take it. You are going to take the box of jewellery. Once you realise this about the quiver, you pretty much empty out the box into the main section of this quiver, and then you grab the jewellery box and empty that out into the medium section of this quiver, and all of the jewellery will fit for sure. I will decide later how much you actually get and what it is and stuff between sessions, because that's boring. Anything else that you want to take? There's a harp. The harp will not fit in any of your inventory, but you can hold it in your hand if you want to leave with it. You've got four nice looking paintings that would be worth different amounts of money, but those are all relatively large as well. The sculptures from the elves, again, you ain't fitting that into your inventory. The figurehead, definitely not. The chest of coins you've dealt with, the quiver you've dealt with, the jewellery box you've dealt with. The only things that are remaining are keepsakes and miscellaneous. So the keepsakes are things like the small instruments, the hand art from the books, the portraits, and the miscellaneous is like cutlery, candlesticks, and nice furniture. One of the elves was a bard, yes. And that's Ratal, who's already left. She said she needed to get out of there. And she was the one you said, do you want to stick around in case there's anything of Luscifrique's treasure that you want back? And she said, the only things he took from me I can't get back. She said, the things that he took from me that I want back, I can't get back. Not the only things he took, because he also took this harp from her. Leave the harp, it's hard to climb with. The paintings will damage as you go through the water. You do notice, upon thinking that I'm at, you sort of investigate the paintings and you see that they have been water damaged. Luscifrique didn't do a great job of keeping them safe as he came through the water. Not entirely, like they haven't been pushed through a waterfall like that. He was holding them in his claws as he flew in, so his wings would have blocked most of it. But he also didn't really have the respect for the paintings to keep them completely dry. Use the nice rope that's in here, tie it to the dolphin figurehead, use it to be able to descend outwards. Good idea, yeah. Take as many keepsakes as we can so that we can give them back to the village. Move the larger items to the cave mouth so we can send the rope in later to drag them out. Good idea, yeah. Alright, so did we find out if the dragon killed all the children? Yes, we did find that out, and yes, he had. The dragon didn't kill the children. The dragon made the elves kill their own children. Because he's fucked up. So, you use that nice rope to drag some of the larger items over closer to the cave mouth so you can get in it easier later. You take like an hour to do this. Move the furniture, the figurehead, the sculptures. There's some like large stone sculptures that are really heavy to move, but that means it's going to be more useful for you to actually tie your rope to it later. What do I mean by nice rope? I mean that it's a silk rope. In terms of the mechanics of D&D, it's a silk rope. It's 50 foot. It's well made. It doesn't weigh as much as a hemp rope, but
but it's the same. It's essentially the same as this 50-foot rope you've got here, but it's made of silk rather than hemp, so it weighs a little bit less. That's all. We can switch it for this rope so that you've just got a silk rope now instead of a hemp rope. You've still got your magic rope as well. Then you make your way to the front of the mouth. You tie up the rope to the figurehead, which is pretty heavy and sturdy. You've placed it up behind a rock as well, so that even though you were able to move it to the front, it will hopefully not move when you shift it out. And then you get the hell out of this cave. You get waterlogged on your way back out again, but by the magic of the quiver, it doesn't take any water into it, because magic. You swim to shore and you get out of there, and it is sort of mid-afternoon at this stage, I'd say. You are out of the cave and heading back to the dome? ? Is that where you want to go? Back to the elven village. Tell them what you found. Give them some of the jewelry back. Any of that stuff. You go up to the top of the cliff, get your magic rope back, of course, and then back to the dome. You're back to the dome. You can start handing out stuff to the elves and things. I'm gonna hand wave that stuff for now. We can talk about it in the Discord channel about the specifics of what you do and don't hand back. It's going to be really boring to watch through or try and play through exactly the ins and outs of what we hand back. I would much rather at this point say that we essentially get through all of whatever we end up giving back, and then we're essentially wrapped up with the Luscifrique arc. There are other things that you can of course do. You can go and check on Tammy and things and how that all went down with the Royal Cross. But at this point, you are free to be your own person again. You're free to get back to Fondurg. You're free to go about the business as you want. You can investigate the Necromancer. You can head north back up to the Four Sisters or Shadridge. There's a lot you can do. But whatever you're going to do, the next time you have, the next time you feel inclined to take 6 days of downtime to just kind of chill and relax, you can level up to level 6. So because you are going to do that soon, most likely, you've been through quite a lot over the last few days, and in-game, it is Apis' birthday tomorrow, and Apis turns 54, it's probably going to be pretty likely that Apis is going to take the next 6 days to just chill in Fondurg or something, just relax and level up. So we need to make some polls now to decide on what Apis is going to do at that level up. Chill at the Four Sisters for our level up, that could be a good idea, but we can decide that next time. What we're going to decide now with the remainder of today's session is how we level up, what we're going to do. So, I'm glad that everybody is here in the chat right now to vote on this thing, because it is important. We are going to take level 6 as a player character, not necessarily as a ranger. Every time you level up, you get the option to either continue in the levels that you already have. We are a 5th level ranger, so we can take the 6th level of ranger, or we can take the 1st level of any other class. I don't restrict with multi-classing rules or anything. I don't look at your stats. If you have a negative intelligence and you want to multi-class into wizard, that's up to you. It's not going to be the smartest decision, but that's entirely up to you in my games. I don't require you to have any particular number in any skill in order to multi-class. So we're going to first vote on whether or not we are going to multi-class. Now, in the Discord, we've had a little ongoing poll for a while to see whether people were leaning towards multiclassing or not. It is not a binding poll. The binding poll is right here, right now in this chat. But just to let people know how those results came out, just to see how the other synapses of Apis' mind are currently leaning. 46 people said yes, we are going to roll for our new hit points rather than taking the average. So I think we're going to be rolling for that. But again, I'll vote on that in a moment. 43 people said no to taking a level of Artificer, so it's unlikely that we're going to be taking Artificer, but we'll vote on that. Not a single person voted yes for taking a level of Barbarian, so very unlikely that we now vote in Twitch, unless you've been trolling me to the extreme and you've decided in Discord that you're not going to take Barbarian, and you've decided in Twitch that you are. It's unlikely that we're going to take Barbarian. We're very unlikely to take Bard. Very unlikely to take Druid by the looks of this, or Monk, or Paladin, or Rogue, or Sorcerer, or Warlock, or Wizard. The only ones that came out with kind of like decent edge in the Discord survey was cleric and fighter, but the majority of people in the Discord wanted to take the 6th level of ranger. I'm going to put it to a poll though. Do we multiclass is the question, yes or no, and it's as simple as that. Do we multiclass? If you want to multiclass into anything at all, you need to vote yes on this poll. Do we multiclass? Fighter gives us more heals at 1st level. Yeah, 1 level in fighter gives you 2nd wind, which is essentially like taking a short rest and rolling a hit dice. You get a d10 plus 2 as a bonus action, 1 time between rests. If you take a 2nd level in fighter later on, you get a 2nd action, you get your action surge. And then if you take a 3rd level in fighter, you get arcane archer, yes, which gives you your magic arrows. Batmap says ranger level 6 may be boring, but that will always be the case if we can't get to the cooler ranger stuff without it. Yeah, so level 6 of ranger might be boring, but you can't just take level 7. You've got to get level 6 first, so delaying that by taking another level in something else makes sense, I guess. Alright, with 65% of the vote, the answer is yes. Apis is going to multiclass. So the next vote becomes, what are we going to multiclass into? This is going to be preferential voting, so don't just vote for the thing that is coming out on top. Vote for the thing that you genuinely want. Even if you're the only person to vote for Barbarian, vote for Barbarian if you want Barbarian. Vote for the thing that you want. If none of the options get above 50%, then I will remove all of the ones that have no chance of getting there, and then those people can re-vote on their second choice of the ones that remain, and so on until one of the things has until one of the things has more than 50%. There it is. Time's up. You've had the time to vote. You have voted 53% fighter. Apis' vote is leveling into fighter. Awesome. All right. So the next thing to vote on. Let me double check fighter. You get to let's. The next thing I know that we can vote on is the health. Do we roll the new HP or do we take the average? Keep in mind that in my games you always can re-roll ones when you're rolling HP. So the average is the average of rolling. So it's really whether you want to take the risk. Because we're taking the level of fighter, we'll be taking a D10. The average of a D10 with re-rolling ones becomes a 6. So you can straight up just take 6 plus 2 and go 8 extra hit points, or you can roll plus 2 and hope for more than that. You could theoretically get a 10 plus 2 and get 12 new hit points. As a hill dwarf, you're actually getting 1 extra hit points each time as well. So it says, when you gain your first level in a class other than your initial class, you gain only some of the new class's starting proficiencies as shown in the multiclassing proficiencies table. So multiclassing into fighter, we will gain proficiency with light armor and medium armor, which I think we already have as a ranger. Shields, which I think we already have as a ranger, but I'm not sure. Simple weapons and all martial weapons, which we already have. So we're getting new proficiencies from being fighter. Class features. When you gain a new level in a class, you get its features for that level. You don't, however, receive the class's starting equipment and a few features of additional rules when you're multiclassing. That's it. So no new proficiencies, no spellcasting, we just get the hit points. You gain the hit points from your new class as described for levels after first. You gain the first level hit points for a class only when you are a first level character. 83% of the vote said Apis is going to roll for the new hit points. So rolling it is. Let's do it right now. I'm going to get these out of the way. Alright, we're going to roll a d10 and we're going to add 2. And if it's a 1, we get to re-roll it. Here goes. That's a 3. Sorry guys, below average this time, but hey, you take the good with the bad. So we get 3 plus 2 from con plus 1 from being a hill dwarf. We get an extra 6 hit points. 6 hit points, so our maximum goes up from 56 to 62. The next thing to vote on for fighter is, let's have a look at the first level fighter features. We have to choose from a fighting style. At first level, we get fighting style and second wind. The fighting style to choose from are one of many, and I'm going to have to put these into a poll. Let me explain what they are as I write them out. All right, so the fighting style is... The options are blind fighting. You have blind sight to a range of 10 feet. Within 10-foot range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blinded or in darkness. So if you are pitch blinded, blindfolded, whatever, you can still see to 10 feet out from you, just because you're super good with your ears or whatever. Moreover, you can see any invisible creature within that range unless the creature successfully hides from you. So anything that is not hidden but is invisible, you can just sense that they're there because of your whatever. Maybe you've got a minor form of echolocation or something, I don't know. The other options are defense. You can take the defense fighting style, which is simply, whenever you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 bonus to your armor class. So whenever you're in armor, your hit point, your armor class would currently be a 16 instead of a 15. Means that you're going to get hit like 5% less often. The next one is dueling. You could take the dueling style, which is whenever you are wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, so not two-handed weapons, you can be a sword and shield or just a sword, or a sword and a spell focus or something. As long as you are holding a single-handed weapon and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with it. So your longsword, for instance, would do 2 extra damage when you wield it one-handed. The next option is great weapon fighting. When you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die for an attack that you make with a melee weapon that you're wielding with 2 hands, you can re-roll that dice and must use the new roll, even if the new roll is a 1 or a 2. The weapon must have the two-handed or versatile property for you to gain the benefit. So if you're using a great weapon, so your longsword with 2 hands, for instance, you can re-roll damage of 1s and 2s. The next one is interception. When a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage that target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. You must be wielding a shield or simple martial weapon to use this reaction. So if you have a shield on or you have a simple martial weapon, simple or martial weapon, so if you have a weapon or a shield and somebody attacks somebody that's adjacent to you, whether ranged or not, you can chuck your shield or your sword into the way and reduce the damage that they take. Then, in a similar fashion, there is the protection style. Whenever a creature you can see attacks a target other than you that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll. You must be wielding a shield. So protection and interception, very similar. One imposes disadvantage on the attack, the other one reduces the damage. Superior technique. You learn one maneuver of your choice from among those available to the Battlemaster archetype. Things like tripping attack, interposing attack, bait and switch attack, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go through all of the Battlemaster archetypes as well because we're already on a tangent, so I'm not going to do a vote on that as well. So superior technique is choose one of the Battlemaster archetypes and you learn it. If it requires you making a saving throw, yada yada yada, you gain a superiority die, which is a d6. And this die is added to any superiority dice you have from another source. You don't have any. And it fuels your maneuvers. So whenever you use your maneuver, you roll your d6 to see how well it does. The next one is thrown weapon fighting. You can draw a weapon that has the thrown property. So like hand axes and daggers and javelins. You can draw one that has the thrown property as part of the attack you make with the weapon. And in addition, when you hit with a ranged attack using a thrown weapon, you can gain a +2 bonus to the damage roll. So you could load upon daggers and knives. You have used hunting knives and manticore teeth and boar tusks. So you could lean into Apis being a thrown weapon fighter as well as a ranged weapon fighter. So you use your bow and arrow when you've got them, and you use thrown daggers when you don't. The next option is two-weapon fighting. Not to be confused with two-weapon fighting. Two-weapon fighting style is when you engage in two-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. So now when you're attacking with 2 daggers, for instance, you can do the same amount of damage with both hands. And finally, unarmed fighting. Your unarmed strikes deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier. instead of just 1 plus your strength modifier. And if you aren't wielding any weapons or a shield when you make the attack roll, if you are unarmed, your d6 becomes a d8. So when you're genuinely unarmed fighting, you can deal a d8 plus your strength modifier, which is equivalent to a monk, and that is fucking insanely overpowered, and I hate it. But you can definitely choose it, and I'll see if it seems overpowered. But you can definitely choose it and see if it is as overpowered as it seems. And, on top of that, at the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to one creature grappled by you. So if you are already grappling a creature, you can just straight up deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to them without using an action or a bonus action or anything. It's just free. You just break them a little bit. So there's a lot of options there. Sorry for it to take so long to go through them, but it's important that you are making your informed choices. And that is time. So that's time. We did not get above a 50%, so I'm going to drop off everything except the top 3, because if I dropped off everything, wait a minute, that's 38, 68, 17, 81. 81, which means there's 19%. 19% would be enough, yes. So 19% would be enough to tip one of those above 50, so it's everything except the top 3. Defense, unarmed fighting or blind fighting. With 41% of the vote, unarmed fighting comes out on top, but not with a majority. So we're going to drop off blind fighting and go again. Unarmed fighting or defense it's going to be. Typical. Comes down to the dice. You know how it is. If you've been here long enough, you've seen this happen before. We've got 50-50%. It comes down to the dice. We're rolling for it. That's a Mel dice. We're going to roll an Apis dice. An Apis dice, it's going to be odds. Odd numbers is going to be defense. Even numbers for unarmed fighting. Odd numbers for defense. Even numbers unarmed fighting. Odd numbers for defense. Even numbers for unarmed fighting. Even number it is. We are going unarmed fighting. Apis is going to take the unarmed fighting style. Which I will probably flavour as you being disarmed from your weapons recently, and you have punched a boar to death with your Planar Warrior ring punch once, and so you kind of lean into that. You spend a few days practicing pugilism and whatnot, and arm bars and stuff, and making able to torture Rob with the monk thingy overpowered. Yes, I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people would have voted for it. It's interesting. It's interesting. I on first reading of it, my thought is unarmed fighting is ridiculously overpowered, and it reduces the properties of having a monk in the party. And because I like monks so much, I'm kind of pissed that they've given one of the monk's abilities to a fighter. And if the fighter then takes an item called the Gloves of Snaring, then they've got another of the monk's features as well. If you give them Featherfall, they've got another. So an item with a fighter with unarmed fighting, Gloves of Snaring, and Featherfall from some other item is basically a monk, and then the monks are like, what am I here for? What's the point? So we'll see. In practice, maybe it's not actually that powerful. Who knows? All right, so we've got unarmed fighting. We've rolled for our hit points. We've got second wind. We don't have to vote on anything for that. We just have it. And I believe that's everything we need to vote on for Apis. So at the next available opportunity in-game, when you guys choose to, in character, you can take 6 days of downtime to level up, and you will gain all of the access to those features, those abilities. And we will probably get onto that next time. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to end it there, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Oh, damn, is it over already? Well, my Patreons get an exclusive first look at all my new videos, so maybe the next one's live over there already. Go check it out.